Absolutely.
All right, fucking welcome to the big dog breakdown of the 2022 NHL playoffs. Holy shit. Took a while, but we're here, boys. We're here. How you feeling?
First Oilers Uncensored with a guest. Feeling good. The inaugural. Where'd he go?
We lose the guest
Oh
immediately.
no! Right as I'm talking about the guest, he's gone.
Oh my god. Well, let's just
Internet's
make
not that good down in the Bay.
Yeah, I know. Well, he probably is. You can get good internet there, but he's probably such a cheap prick. He didn't even. Fraser Oliver has entered the waiting room. We'll let him back in. You got anything bad to say about him before we let him in?
No, nothing.
Okay.
I have nothing bad to say about the guy.
All right. Well, I hit admit
Stand
he should
up,
be
dude.
popping
There he
back
is.
in.
What is going on, big dog?
I'm sorry. I thought I I thought I pressed cancel on like the thing of the recording, but I clicked leave meeting. So my bad. That's on me.
Absolute
That's
classic.
on you. That's on the edibles.
Gummies are kicking in early.
Oh my
What did
god.
I miss?
You missed everything. We just made fun of you. We did a nice little intro.
Are we starting
Broke down the
over, or are
Leaf
we
series
just
already?
There is no
starting
start.
over?
There's no starting over, Oliver. You know this.
Perfect. Hey, this is your show. I'm just a guest.
No, this is Chase's show. I'm just a guest.
The Chase Rock Show.
It's the Chase Route show. Big night in the NHL. Lots of games. Finally locked it in. I think the East locked in a couple hours ago. Now we're just waiting on. I think the Nashville game's the last one that could flip things up. So I think we'll probably start in the East, go through that, break them down, and I think it's going to be a bit of a shit show of us talking over each other. So we might just have to find our little funk. Might have to let one guy kind of take the lead each time. Someone will take turns, maybe starting on it, giving our thoughts. I honestly haven't given any thought to any of this all day. I probably should have done a little bit of pre-work, but I do my best work in the crunch times. You guys know that. So where do you guys want to start in the East? What one's got you most excited? Oh, and my dog just unplugged my computer. Way to go, dog.
We could start with the top and go right with the top dog President Cup champ Florida Panthers. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, start us off, Chase. What do you think?
Let's do it.
I don't know. I think this is probably the one series in the East, especially if the Ovechkin injury lasts into the playoffs. I think it's probably the series that could get out of hand quick. I think it's probably the most likely to be a sweep in the East. I think Florida, even without Ekblad, they're just they're a fucking monster of a team, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in Ovechkin-less caps,
I honestly
their
think,
heart and soul.
I don't think Ovechkin isn't playing though. You got to think he's playing.
Mm-hmm. But I think with him being so much of a mutant his whole career, when you see him show that type of pain, you know what I mean? Like I think for sure he's going to play, but is he going to be 100%? Right? Like I think if he doesn't play game one, that's bad. That means, his arm's barely hanging on by a tendon, you know what I mean? And if he does play and he doesn't look like himself, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little bit banged up, because over a huge career, he's played a lot of games. How often you've even seen him have a grimace on his face, right? And he went in the boards pretty hard there, and he's getting up there in age. I don't know. I think that's a big question.
I think just from watching Florida a lot this year, they can score, but they can give up a lot of goals, right? They can score an 8 spot, but they can give up a 6 spot. I do think Florida's going to win. I think they have, because of the market, they're probably flying under the radar with pressure-wise. Like we look at like the top pressure series, you're looking at teams like Toronto, Edmonton, I feel like has a lot of pressure on them.
For sure.
Colorado would have a lot of pressure on them. Florida, I think, is kind of laying low just because of that market. But I think the Capitals can give them a run. But I do think Florida's probably going to win that in 5 or 6 games. But you don't want to count out like a Stanley Cup winning team. The one question for the Caps is goaltending, right? They don't really have much goaltending, and it's been kind of an iffy thing all year. But if you get a guy hot for 2 weeks, you never know.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with the East, is really anybody could beat anybody. I think Samsonov has showed in the past he can be just as good as anyone else, and Bobrovsky is getting up there in age. He's had a good year, but like you said, FO, I don't know if it's the team or the goalie, but they can give up heaps, and they can give up heaps quick. So I think it's going to be a good series. Like I'm with you.
When I was looking at kind of matchups for Toronto potentially heading in, I think the one that I was probably most comfortable with was Florida, just because of how much that decor gives up and what is Ekblad right now, the Ekblad injury. Their goaltending is really a question mark for me. Bob is sometimes amazing, and Bob can be a huge question mark. Like last year, Spencer Knight was playing games. I would not be surprised if we saw Spencer Knight in this series.
Yeah, especially in the playoffs. I think
you-
Bobrovsky has a history of that, right? But that's a nice thing that kind of takes away that worry for me, is that they have that young Spencer Knight who can come in and, it's not like, if Mike Smith has some trouble where you're throwing Koskinen in, who, played good, had a great little shootout win tonight. But, if you have a little stud like that can come in and win you some games too, I worry about it a little bit less, especially with everything else they have. And just remind me, what is the story on Ekblad? Like, is he like gone for sure for the first round, or is he gone for the year? Is he going to step back in at some point in the playoffs so they can make it far enough?
I think he's definitely potential to get back in there. They're talking about him, like if the series maybe starts off not great for them, I think they might pressure him back in there. But they could easily say, you know what, we're a wagon. You take the time you need. If shit hits the fan, we might push you back in there. But I think he'll probably be out of series, is kind of what I'm hearing.
It's also one of those. It's also one of those like gamesmanship too, right? You don't really know. Teams aren't really going to give you too much. Like Matthews missed a few games down the stretch, and the Leafs didn't disclose the injury. They just said it was minor, so you don't know. They could be saying he's back in a week, but really he's out for another month. So it's kind of hard to gauge those kind of injuries now. But I mean, he's a big factor. Like that decor is not defensively sound. I think Florida gets through, but I don't think Florida's winning the cup this year. I think there's too much emphasis on. Well, I just don't know if Florida's winning a game. Let's say they play Tampa in the second round, or they, I don't think Florida's winning a game 3-1. I don't know if they're prepared for that. I know. What did you like that little slip there?
What did you just say?
He just said Tampa's going to play Florida in the first round. Are you discounting the Leafs?
Hey, we'll get to our predictions. Don't worry about that. And I think if a Florida-Toronto series would be absolute electricity, though. That would probably set a record for most goals in a series. Oh my God.
Yeah, that'd be.
That's what I was going to say about this series. Is I think this series probably out of all the. I'd include the West in it too. I think out of all the series, this could be the high scoring out of them all. So it's going to be an electric factor. I think just goals on goals.
And I think goaltending is going to be one of the big stories that comes out of that too, because, everybody has those worries about Bob, but you've also seen him do spectacular things before. Whereas if he does dial in and just has, one of those runs, it could be lights out where, even if they are playing a bit of a riverboat gambler type of hockey and they're giving up lots of chances, if he starts shutting the door, that offense could really carry him through, and it could look like this could all be for naught, and it could be just an absolute shit fisting for game quick route. I wouldn't be surprised to see that either.
Bobrovsky hasn't really proved anything to me in the playoffs, though. I mean, he played when he's been in the playoffs before. He's been with Columbus, so that could reflect a little bit on the team. But I think he's kind of the definition of a regular season goalie. He performs in the regular season, and he hasn't showed me much in the playoffs yet.
Right. And then also with those Columbus teams, they had great decors, and there were, Tortorella teams where it was just systems. Like, it's not like they're playing like the Florida plays in front of them, right? Like, so that also is a much different story. And if he wasn't showing it with them, this is going to be a different story. I just never count out a guy that has that type of skill unless it's mental. And it's just one of those things where he gets into the high pressure and the wheels come off, which, I wouldn't be surprised by either. But I still think against Washington, especially with Ovi being questionable, I wouldn't be surprised if.
I don't think it's a sweep, though. Like, a
you don't
sweep
think so?
is, I mean, there's too much just like vets on that team who have experience in the playoffs that I don't think Washington is a team that's going to go away easy. But I think Florida wins. But I don't think Washington's just going to roll over or die. And I don't think Ovi's not playing. Like, Ovi's in there. Ovi's going to rip home 3 goals at least in that series. I'm not concerned about him.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
And Washington plays with bite. They've got guys that just like make things uneasy for you. That I think Washington is probably going to be the more physical team. And I think they're comfortable playing that role.
Right. Anything else for that series that we think we've missed? Any factors that we haven't touched on, or do you think we should give all of our predictions, which I'm thinking about in the moment? I have not. I did not put much thought into this. I might have to let you guys start, and then I'll copy after you guys.
Should we do predictions now? You want to do predictions at the end, or what do you want to do?
Let's do predictions at the end of each series. We'll predict a series.
Okay.
And then at the end, we'll go cup winner.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Chase, what do you got for the Florida Washington series?
I kind of agree with FO. I think it has the potential to get a little bit out of hand. I think for Florida one way, I don't think it will. So I'm going to say Florida in 6. I'm going to go the basic answer to start off.
4-2. Gotcha. FO?
I was gonna say Florida in 6, but I'll be a contrarian here and I'll go Florida in 7.
Oh, 4-3. Gotcha.
How many rats are going to be thrown on the ice in this series?
3,862. No, it's way more than 1,000, guaranteed. Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those.
1,000 in game 1.
Okay. Random insert here.
Yeah.
The guy. Speaking of things being thrown on the ice, the guy who used to throw the octopus on the ice in Detroit. You guys hear that story? How he got fired because he was.
Yes.
He got caught pissing down a drain or something.
That's such
What a
bullshit.
sick puppy that guy is.
He was pissing down a drain in between the 2 Zambonis, but now he's taken so he got fired. They fired him. Now he's taking the Red Wings to court because I have it in a prostatic hypertrophy. So he has like some disorder where he says sometimes
he's got an enlarged prostate.
Yeah. So
which does make you pee a lot, but I think like it came out that he was like 30 paces from the bathroom. I don't know.
Yeah, it was something like 60 feet or something. But like, if
I've seen worse.
If you have if you got the FO baby bladder syndrome and you got to go, sometimes you just got to whip her out. And I mean, he's been doing that job for what, like 40 years? Like he's probably pissing that drain quite a few times over the years.
How many times do you think he's been leaking in that thing?
A lot.
I mean, let's be fair though to the guy. We've pissed in some worse spots than that, so we got to give him a break here.
For sure.
That's how you got your first
Nick,
sex
what was your
offender
prediction
charge.
there?
Well, I was honestly like before hearing you guys talking, I was leaning sweep. I just have that feeling, they're going to come in and really buck. But after you guys kind of talk me out of it, I think I'm going to go Florida in 5. Florida in 5.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's not bad. We got to, I can't copy one of your guys' answers. Should we bop down to Canes, Boston, or Pittsburgh, New York? We'll leave the big dog series.
Yeah, let's go to the other number 1 seed, I guess.
Which is the Canes?
Canes, Boston. Yep.
Okay. FO, how about you start us off on this series?
Yeah, let me take it away here. Couple teams here with some question marks in net. I know Freddie Anderson had a great year and he's probably a finalist for the Vezina.
But he's hurt, no?
But he's a finalist. But yeah, and you know what? Freddie's kind of weird that way. We're like against the Leafs, with the Leafs last year, there wasn't really like a found injury. He just had like a knee problem and he basically sat out 2/3 of the year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's something mental with Freddie. I think he's kind of like, I think he doesn't love the big moment. And I think him getting out of Toronto was good for him because he wasn't in that market where that market's so tough on goaltenders. and then so who do they have after that? Ranta? And then Ranta went down.
And he's hurt too.
Ranta and some kid.
So I think Ranta might actually still play, but they've got they're down to their 3rd string. Boston's goalies are unproven too. The only thing that's kind of drawn my Swayman and who's the other guy they got? Olmark?
I think so.
Oh yes.
And I think Swayman's going to be their guy. The only thing that kind of is the saving grace for Carolina is they did win a game with a Zamboni driver in net. So they are a pretty nice defensive team. That's going to be a good.
That was against the Leafs though. So
yeah, it doesn't really count. They also had an e-bug go in tonight, didn't they? I was just watching highlights before I ran down here and I saw a goalie with a who are they playing? Were they playing Dallas tonight or something? No. I can't remember. Whoever they're playing, they had a helmet with their logo on it and stuff and no name bar on the back. So that to me that says e-bug all day long. So I don't know if they had their 3rd stringer tonight and then he got hurt or something. Like, oh my God. Like they are just in.
Maybe. And
I think they still won tonight, even still, maybe not. Maybe they got dummy once they threw that e-bug in, but no, that's a lot of question marks all around. Emergency backup goalie. You know how each team, each home team is responsible to have a just someone with a set of pads that if you need to, if both goalies go down, you can throw them in. And maybe they didn't have a call up or something because Ranta and Freddie went down like within recent times. So maybe they just didn't have someone there. Maybe they only had one goalie or something. I can't see that.
Yeah, it might have just been this Russian kid. They have a 22-year-old Russian,
too.
Pyotr Kochetkov. Maybe he's just straight
That's
from
him.
He hasn't got his
Name bar on yet.
Helmet painted yet. Or something.
That could be. It might have been that. But no name bar is bad. Like the helmet thing's one
That's
thing,
a Mickey
right?
Mouse operation. Give him a bucket that's colored.
Honestly,
at least
whatever
it's a
the
solid
bucket.
red one.
Yeah, but who cares about the bucket? Give the guy a name bar, unless it's an e-bug. Like,
Yeah,
come on, that's bad. The no name bar.
So what do we think about Boston? What do we think about Boston? Then we're talking about Carolina. How do we feel about this core?
I don't know. I feel like playoff Marchand is always a factor, right? Like he changes teams, especially a team like the Canes that are, have a lot of that high flying offense and have a couple fiery dudes, like that Shreknikov. He can get rattled in the cage. We've seen him a couple times in the playoffs get pretty fiery. A couple of those, what are they, Finns? Like they get they get going, right? Maybe he gets in the cage.
Russian, my guy.
Right. But what about Aho? And don't they have I know that. Okay, that's not what I meant.
That's like the most Russian name
ever. Teravainen.
Anything with Ov, buddy. Anything with Ov.
Yeah, no, I know Sheknikov. Got his lights punched out by a Russian too. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched much of Boston this year.
I think someone that everyone forgets that's on Boston is former Oiler Taylor Hall. I think he can be an X factor. I think he adds a lot of depth on the second line. I think D Hall's gonna be buzzing around out there. I think Carolina is gonna have to find an answer for Taylor Hall, and if they don't, it could be in trouble.
Dude, you're a loser.
Honestly, though, I think this is going to be a tough series for Boston. I was kind of looking through all the season series when I was getting ready for this, and this was kind of the most lopsided season series of them all. Carolina is 3-0 against Boston. They outscored them 16-1 in 3 games. 2 shutouts. I think it was a 7-1, a 6-0, and a 3-0. So they've had their number all year. I think Carolina is a super tight team. Rod the Bod runs a pretty tight ship around there, I think. Yeah. And watching them play the Oilers, they're kind of the team that always seems to lock down the Oilers. I don't know. Jacob Slavin is, I think, one of the more underrated D-men in the league.
For sure.
I think he is a legit number one, and I think he can shut down anybody. So yeah, I think Boston's in tough, especially with the lack of goaltending, and I think it's going to be tough for Boston.
Yeah, I think.
You know what?
Go ahead,
what we need to do? You know what we need to do? We're on videos here. We got to just throw our hand up or something like we're in school.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
We should just put your hand up when you're ready, like gonna talk next.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. did you do a year of education or something? Man, you're really good at this.
Dude, I was a substitute teacher for a year and a half.
You were too. You know your shit. Okay, well you hop in next.
Imagine having Fraser as a substitute teacher. Jesus
kids just be walking all over that.
Free day.
Yeah.
Oh man, one kid did give me the double bird one time, and I was pretty rattled.
No.
You probably deserved it though.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, one stat I did hear about Boston was they're the only team the last 4 years they've made it out of the first round. So they know how to win. Carolina's gone on some runs though recently. I think they were in the conference finals 2 years ago, and they got through the first round last year. So I don't know. I think this is a long series. I'm concerned. Like straight up, if both teams are healthy, I like Carolina, but with the goaltending situation, like I think that top line is just going to expose that. Don't you think? Like playoffs is goaltending, right?
Yeah.
And I think what Chase kind of touched on there about Rod the Bod, there's not a team that I've seen that, plays for a coach as hard as they play for Rod Brindamore, right? Like, especially in the playoffs, it seems like they are such a different team, and like just the camaraderie and the energy in that building is something different that they kind of really start to feed on. And I wouldn't want to play them. Like, my biggest concern was the goaltending, but I think with how we've kind of laid it out, like I said, I haven't watched much of Boston, but from what you guys are saying, I think even without, a number one goaltender, they can kind of blow through them with offense and, guys committing on both sides of the puck and just kind of keeping it so overwhelmed that they can't really pull anything back.
I think another challenge for Boston, though, looking here, Carolina is by far the best penalty kill in the NHL, 88%. They're 4% ahead of second. And I think that top line on Boston, they're good. Even strength, they're good puck possession. But I think where they really shine is on the power play. So I think if Carolina can keep up those stats of the best penalty kill in the league and shut that down, and you limit them to just scoring 5-on-5 and can contain the power play, and I think you got a good shot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Anything else that we're missing?
Yeah, I'll just add, just from watching Boston lately, I don't know if you haven't seen them much, but man, that Charlie McAvoy is an absolute stud. I really thought when he was Chara's D partner when he first came into the league, and he played with a little bite. And kind of my perception was, okay, well, once Chara leaves, he's going to kind of lose that like swagger, but kind of like he's not afraid to give a guy a shot after the play or run a guy over. And he plays like playoff hockey. So
yeah,
why don't we make our predictions? Because I feel like me and you guys are on opposite sides here.
Yeah, I have no fucking clue on this one. You guys start. I still got to think about it. I don't know who. So who do we think is starting game one for the Canes and net? Do we have any idea?
I think it's Ranta.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Ranta too. All
right. Okay, that makes my prediction.
Freddie doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to battle through a lot.
No,
I think if he's hurt, he not saying he's going to milk it at practice. I don't fucking know the guy, but I think he's not going to be the guy to say like, no, I'm fucking good, even though he's not. Maybe 100%.
Agreed.
Okay, well, I'll go first then. Why don't I go first? Because Chase went first last time. I'm going to take Boston in 6. They're going to win this in the TD Garden.
Jeez.
One of the most intimidating barns to go into. I think they're going to be up 3-2, and they're going to get it done at home.
Chaser?
Oh, I'm going to go totally different direction here. I think the season series speaks volumes. I think Carolina, it's just one of those things like we talked about the Oilers Wild. You sometimes you can't explain it, but a team just has a team's number. I'm going to go Carolina in 5. I think they're going to win 4-1. I think this might have been the series I go sweep, but with no Freddie, I think maybe there's one high scoring game in there where that top line scores a bit, but I think Carolina is going to tighten it up a little bit and win 4-1.
FO?
Do you think this is the end of the Boston kind of core? You think this is like probably their last run of being kind of the big bad Bruins? I know they were, perennially a top 3 team in that division. They kind of dropped off. I know they're only 3 points back of Boston this year. I mean Tampa this year, but it kind of seems this might be the last hurrah.
Yeah. I mean they oh sorry, I didn't.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, they still got 107 points this season. So I think just a bit of an outlier season where 107 points doesn't get you in the top 3, you're a wild card team. I think that's a bit of a fluke.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think there's still some more fruit on those trees. Like, I don't think it's that core. I think you maybe have 1 or 2 more years of them. But the thing is the goaltending is going to be an issue for the next couple of years. And if they could get a good goalie to kind of shore that up without having to lose one of those big pieces of their core, I think they might have another maybe year, maybe 2 at that run. But I think if they're stuck with this team, with that goalie, this is their last real kick at the cat.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Chase. I think they still got it. I don't know if I just said they don't got it anymore, but I'm going to contradict myself if I did. I think they still got another 3-4 years at least. I think Marchand still got it. Pasternak's a stud and he's young. Goaltending might be a situation for them, but I think Swayman has kind of had a decent year, and he's just kind of unproven. So,
he's pretty young too. I think could turn it on. Chaser.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna get on you there. If you just pick Boston to win the series, and then tell me it's the end of their run as a core. I don't know how much term do those guys have on their contracts? Like, do they have 2-3 years left of Bergie, Marchand, and Pastrnak? Like, what's going on with the contracts?
I think Pasta just signed.
I think so.
I think this is maybe the second year on his deal where he signed within a year or 2 of Nylander. I think within a year of Nylander, and he signed. He's at like 6.5 or something. Like, he's on a pretty good deal.
They're all pretty cap friendly over there.
Yeah, they all are pretty cap friendly. Boston does a pretty good job of making things happen. That's why they got some good depth.
And I think, especially with kind of the whole DeBrusk situation earlier in the year of him wanting to trade, and then not getting that trade, sticking around and having a really good season again, right? Like, I think that really bolsters that core and gives them a little bit more fire in the tank. And I think that would have been a big piece of their identity too, just over the last couple of years that they would have been losing. Oh, you guys both got your hand up. Who's going?
This is Bergie's last year on his deal. I don't know if he has an extension. Cap Friendly doesn't have an extension here. Pasternak has 1 more year, and Marchand and Hall are there for 3 more years. So I don't know what they're going to do with Bergie in off season.
Well, they're going to sign him, and I'm sure he's going to give them a pretty team-friendly deal. I don't think he's going to try and break the bank on him. Pasternak could be interesting. He might be asking for some money because I think he's been overpaid on this deal. He could be asking for 9+ sheets, and I think he's worth it. What was I going to say now? You got me off track.
I don't know.
Whatever. Nick, I think you got to give a prediction here.
Yeah. So I was kind of going into this. I thought both Ranta and Freddie were hurt going into this, and that was kind of making me think that Boston might take it in 7. But if Ranta's starting game 1, then I think Canes in 6. That's my prediction. I think they're too good. I think like you say, Boston's got a lot to give, and they're not going to go down easy. They're pretty greasy. They'll put it up, but I think the Canes are just too good.
I think you respect Antti Ranta too much, man. That guy's a pylon in net. But okay. Why don't we move on?
But I mean,
why don't we move on?
That's what I'm thinking though. Like the next option from Ranta down from there, I'm like, oh my god, who are they putting in? Like, is Blassetti going in next? Like, I don't know. That's my thought.
Oh my god, Blassetti just needs one beer and he's good to go. He's loose.
2 beers and 3 Advils. I think that was a magic combo to get his hips loose enough.
My belief in the Hurricanes is not with Ranta at all. It's just with their team as a general unit and system. I think, like, I don't know, fuck, you could probably throw Blassetti in net for them and he might do not so bad. Like you said, they won a game with a fucking Zamboni driver. So I think they can shut it down with the best of them.
That's fair. FO? Just sitting there with his hand up.
Oh, he's froze.
No, he's moving.
It's goaltending, man. Like remember when Colorado 2 years ago, where they had Freddie Francois in net, and then I think he got hurt also, and then it was Michael Hutchinson, and I just think like, man, you need a goalie to advance.
Yeah.
But Boston in 6. I'm going to show you guys in 2 weeks that you guys don't know anything.
Yeah, I mean that very well could be, and I think that's where this first season or this first series is one thing, but with what a meat grinder the East is, I think that goaltending is going to really shine. Look at that dumb grin on FO's face.
Meat grinder, dude. What a term, a meat grinder. Dude,
is the East come out of sausage?
Is the East not a meat grinder though? Like, look at that setup. I mean,
yeah,
like you throw
the
Canes in the West.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. So I think first round they can get through with it. Exactly what we said. Chase, the team is too good. The goaltending is not going to matter. But you get past the first round, and I think that's where that is going to start being a different story. Any other big factors that we're missing on that?
No, I think we got that one.
Got her locked down. It's now the old Pittsburgh, New York. This is, an interesting, geographically, I don't know what they got for rivalries going back. You guys would know that better than me, but I know just like geographically, that's probably going to be a pretty hot series.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the series that gets me fucking fired up, honestly. We got to see what Sid the Kid and Malkin have left in them.
Mm-hmm.
And, Pittsburgh's kind of been snake bitten by goaltending the last couple of years. I think last year they played the Islanders in the first round. And honestly, I think they outplayed the Islanders, but Tristan Jarry couldn't make a save. And Tristan Jarry's been a really good regular season goalie. But what has he got in the playoffs? I think he's hurt. Anyone know his situation if he's playing or not?
Tristan Jarry's out for the year, I think.
I think they have him as week to week, but
week to week. So you're not going to see him in the first round. Probably be Casey DeSmith in there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think this is probably the biggest mismatch in net if you look at Shesterkin and DeSmith.
Yeah, and even with this DeSmith in net, the last couple games of the season, which it's always tough to judge on the last couple games of the season, especially with the East being locked up for so long. But they played good in front of him, and I think they've been coming in. They're on a bit of a heater coming on to the end of the year, so that's a different story, regular season versus playoffs. But I don't know, gives me a little bit of hope for him. But I think you're right on the biggest mismatch. That Shesterkin seems like just an absolute animal, an absolute manimal. All right, FO, what you got?
No, Chase, you go.
Okay, I was just gonna rephrase your question about the Bruins to you guys, and do you think this could be one of the last years that this core with Crosby and Malkin and Letang has a run at it. I mean, they've looked a little bit not lackadaisical. They've looked a little dead towards the end of the year here. I know when I watched them play the Oilers the other week, they looked out of it. Maybe they're coasting in the playoffs. That the East has been clinched since January, it seems. But do you think this could be their last run?
Well, yeah, they kind of limped into the playoffs. They came out of the gates really hot. And even when Malkin and Sid were out to start the year, they were playing fine. Jeff Carter kind of had a resurgence this year. But going into next year, like Pittsburgh doesn't have Letang or Malkin signed. So what does that look like? I know like Brian Burke's been kind of outspoken about saying like at some point it's going to change. I just don't see them leaving. I don't see Malkin leaving. I don't see Letang leaving. I think the only thing that really keeps this team out of the playoffs next year would be injuries. I know Malkin's kind of been on and off the last couple of years, missing games. Letang's been great this year, honestly. Like he's had a big resurgence. Is Letang a Hall of Famer? What do you guys think?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think this trio easily all gets in, because I think if you take, well, this might be bold, but I think if you take any of the three off of those teams in the past, I don't think they win cups. Maybe the really early on ones when Crosby was young and they had Flower, but I think definitely the repeat. If you take anyone, Letang, Malkin, Crosby off, I don't think they get there those years.
Oh, I got a comment for you. Letang didn't play one year in the playoffs, so.
Oh shit!
Was that one of the years that they won?
Was that when he had that weird like?
I think it was the third cup they won. He was out the whole. Whole playoffs. Yeah. So okay, Chase.
Okay, well, maybe not then. Maybe not then.
Yeah, because what I was gonna say about that is, I think if you are if you're a number 1D or like a number 1-2 forward and you get 3 cups in a span of that many years, you're almost guaranteed Hall of Fame, right? Like that's where I was gonna go. But if he wasn't around for one of those cups, maybe that changes the story.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's probably in that spot, like kind of where the Capitals are right now, where they're always going to get in, but I don't think they're going to be like the good old days when it was the Capitals winning the President's Trophy. Pittsburgh's a few points behind them, and they were like 1-2 in the East going. I think they're going to, keep being like in the division or a wild card team, and they'll be scrappy in the playoffs. But serious cup contenders with like, unproven goaltending and, not much depth in the lineup. Tough to say.
I think this is a weird matchup for the Rangers, though. I think they're kind of in that spot where the Lightning were before they, not saying they're as good, but I think right before the Lightning won the cup there, those 2 years when they got swept by Columbus. I think the Rangers are flying high. They're a young team. They don't have a lot of guys who have done this before, right out from their goalie up to their top end guys, Panarin and Zibanejad and that gang. So I think Pittsburgh with that veteran mindset, they'll come in and maybe experience will carry them a little bit. But I think the Rangers are right for the picking here, and I think the Penguins are almost right where they want to be, and that's kind of flying under the radar as underdogs and in a series where they get to go into a big Showtime barn at MSG, and Crosby, always plays up to that. So I think this is going to be a tight series as well. I don't think it's going to get out of hand by any means.
Yeah, I think like on paper with what we've seen out of like Shesterkin and then like Adam Fox and all those guys, but they are a little bit younger. They haven't got to see what it takes to really win like Pittsburgh has. On the core and what they got left on Pittsburgh, I think, like you say, a really big question before you can answer that is what happens with Letang and Malkin next year, right? It's so hard to say what they're going to be until that question's answered. I don't think they're focusing on that right now. They got, bigger things ahead of them, but I think this summer we'll have a much better idea of like kind of where they're going to be for the next few years. FO?
Yep. And even kind of on top of that, two things. The Rangers kind of flamed out last year, didn't they? They had a pretty good regular season, and I think Washington kind of put it to them in the playoffs. So, I mean, Shesterkin's kind of a new guy now, and so maybe he's going to be the difference. But yeah, I think the Rangers are really unproven. In terms of Pittsburgh, who are the three teams that they beat in the Cup final? They beat the Sharks. They beat Detroit. Who is the third team they beat? Oh, Nashville.
With Subban.
Nashville.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what series we got robbed of? That would have been amazing. Would have been like a Pittsburgh Chicago final. Because those are kind of like the two biggest dynasties we've had in this era or in that era. I mean, LA was a good team too, but it was kind of like Patty Kane, Crosby. That would have been an amazing matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I concur. Yeah, and that's another thing that always, you know, like when you look at the save percentage that Shesterkin put up this year, like he might just be that guy, but it's so hard to judge it off 1 year of that kind of performance. Like, is that one of those things? Like, it's kind of like when you see a guy putting up crazy points and his shooting percentage is like 25, and it's like, okay, he's probably really good and talented, but that might regress to the mean just a little bit, right? Like, not to say he's overblown or anything, but just sometimes it's just the bounces go your way and just you're going to come back down to mortal and he's going to be good, but not that good. And if that happens, I think they need him to be that, 9-5 save percentage type goalie to make up for some of those, some of that inexperience if they're going to win this series and go and make a run at it. FO?
Yep. And just to kind of piggyback on that, everyone kind of has a career year, right? So maybe this is just his career year. It's insane. So can he ride that momentum into the playoffs, or is he going to get a little bit exposed, or like the moment's going to kind of get on him? But I think this is going to be a good series.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. And just is there a lot of rivalry going back, Pittsburgh, New York? I mean, like I said at the very start, they're so close. I would imagine that there'd be a rivalry there, but that's not always what creates rivalries. And it's usually a bit more to it. But I'm such a Edmonton homer. I don't my eyeballs don't get out east that much. Is there lots of bad blood going back back in the day?
I don't know. I don't know. I would say in the 90s with Lemieux, Yager, I think they had some pretty good showdowns with New York, but I don't remember all that much. I think recently they haven't really played in the playoffs. I think it's more Washington, New York that seem to kind of meet in the playoffs all the time. So
and Washington, Pittsburgh.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Washington, everybody.
Mm-hmm. They were just always in there like a dirty shirt. They're playing everybody, taking them. Yeah. There's never a boring Washington series. That's for sure.
Should we do some predictions on this one?
Yeah, maybe before we hop into that, I just kind of have a question for was Adam Fox in that series where they kind of petered out last year, or is this kind of his first year as the guy going in there?
No, he won the Norris last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
He was amazing last year. Yeah, that was like his coming out party.
Right. Okay, and that still didn't carry them. Now he's a whole nother year, and I think when you're especially for D-men, every year of experience really adds on to what you can bring into the playoffs, right? So he might be another step forward on that. And Zibanejad is so streaky, he could throw something together where he gets 10 goals in a series or something. He seems to be that guy, or he could kind of have one. We'll see. FO,
what a turnaround for the Rangers though as a franchise. Remember when they sent out that letter to their fans saying like we're doing a rebuild, and now they're here, they're second in the division, 111 points I think they finished the season with. Man, I wish the Leafs and the Oilers went through some rebuilds that lasted probably a decade and a half. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to be pretty happy
being a Ranger fan.
Yeah, Chase.
I don't know if I have a bad website here, but Rangers missed the playoffs last year.
No, dude, you're crazy.
2021 record 27, 23-6 missed playoffs, and the year before. They lost the qualifying round to the Caps, that weird qualifying COVID round. And then the 2 prior years to that, they missed as well.
Okay. So well, there we go.
That's an even bigger turnaround than I think you thought. Like they missed the playoffs last year with a Norris winner.
What was that division then? Because it was the weird divisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
who advanced in that division?
I'm going to look it up right now.
Well, Washington, if they did the play-in. They'd be
Washington.
No, that was the year before. The year before they lost. Remember when the Oilers lost?
Oh, right. There's no play-in last year.
Yeah.
Washington, the Pittsburgh Islanders would have made it, but what would have been that fourth team? Because it could have been Carolina. Would it be Carolina?
Would they be in that division?
No, so it was Pittsburgh, Washington, Boston, Islanders.
Boston.
Okay.
Rangers. Rangers were out of it by 11 points. Like they didn't really have a sniff at the playoffs last year. So that's quite a big turnaround. I think that's awesome.
And that kind of brings back my point that I made about Adam Fox. Like this is going to be his first time in the big, spotlight, trying to see what he's got for him. And for some reason, I just have a feeling that because he always kind of plays with that swag. I think he's going to be big time, showtime every time. And another aspect to that rebuild, FO, is it was kind of weird because they got that number 1 overall pick, Lafreniere, and they thought that was going to be the big piece that changed him. And then he didn't like fizzle per se. He wasn't a Yakupov, but he wasn't everything they thought he was going to be. And it was kind of like, oh man, is this rebuild going to stall? And then the goalie comes out of nowhere. Adam Fox comes out of nowhere. They lift it up, and now Lafreniere doesn't need to be that guy. And now he's kind of got the time to make his pace, and the rebuild just totally shifted gears.
Yeah, I think unless if FO has a point on this series, I'll wait, because before we get to predictions on this one, I have an update. The Coyotes have tied it.
Oh shit!
4-4. It's 4-4 with 11 minutes to go in the third, so we could see a couple matchups
shake up in the West. Interesting. What were you going to say, FO?
Okay, what were you going on about there?
Just
sorry, the gummies are kicking in.
Yeah, so Adam Fox's first year as the guy, I think it's gonna be a big deal, and just how different that rebuild shaped up to be. Everyone thought it was gonna be Lafreniere around.
The draft picks too. They got that Capo guy, who should be in the AHL. This guy can't do anything out there. The guy is useless. What a disappointing pick that is. Like, oh my! Like, have the Oilers had I mean, you guys got the Yakupov thing. I feel like he's kind of on a Yakupov trajectory.
A little bit.
Like he's just. I don't think he's got it. And Lafreniere is kind of disappointing. He was all right though. I think he ended up like 18 or 19 goals this year. So
Yeah, he's getting there.
Lafreniere scored a pretty sick fucking goal a week or two ago. He had that kind of between the legs move, backhand top cheese. But do you think I haven't really seen Capo play much? Do you think he may be more on like a Jesse Puljujarvi trajectory, where like he looks like a super obvious bust, but then he's just young. Maybe he needs to go spend a year in the A. Maybe he needs to go spend a year back home and he misses his mama or something, and then he comes back with a vengeance and maybe plays a little bit better. Who knows?
I think I think they just threw him in there too early, and now they're not willing to kind of give him some development. You know, like he stepped in his rookie year and he played, and he ended his rookie year with like less than 20 points, and you're drafting a guy at 2. You're looking for a guy who's going to be a goal scorer, playmaker. And sometimes guys just need to learn how to play at the pro level against men, and learn how to how their body works and how everything goes. And if you force feed them into the NHL, they just get overwhelmed, and he looks like he's kind of destined to be a bottom 6 guy.
Yeah, but I think what I was kind of alluding to earlier was, it's amazing how well, with Shesterkin and Adam Fox coming into that organization and really kind of carrying a lot of that workload. I think if both Capo and Lafreniere are gonna grow into, if there is room for them to grow into it, that's what's creating the space for them. And I think that's what's really, if you're a New York Rangers fan, I'd be really excited for the next couple of years, because if they're a bust or not, it's not like where Yakupov was, thrown in there as well, but there was no other pieces to kind of lift him up and kind of, shelter him a little bit so he could have that time to figure his shit out. New York has good enough in other areas where if they do have it within them to find that game, there's going to be some space to find it, which I think is really exciting if I was them. Yeah,
I mean, I agree. They've got a lot of skill up front. Zibanejad and Panarin's an absolute rock star. So I mean, they don't need a guy to step in and be the guy. But I think
who on New York is going to be their kind of shutdown guys? Because like when I think of Pittsburgh, not only do they have the offense, but they've shown on multiple cup runs that they can really shut down lines and play any way they need to play to win. Who is that on New York? Because I just don't know their team as well, other than those big high flying guys that we already spoke about.
Yeah, let me look at their roster right now. I know their decor is okay.
I think their main guys
get bailed out a lot by
Trouba. Yeah, he's big.
Truba's a stud, man.
Mm-hmm. He's so good. I loved watching him with Winnipeg. I was so bummed when they lost him, as well as Buffalo, as well as Myers, all in the same same summer. FO.
He went on a heater too of like probably a month in the middle of the season where Trouba was literally just lining everyone up coming over the blue line. It was unreal.
Yeah.
And he'll drop the mitts too and beat your ass.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
You love a guy like that. You love a guy like that on your team.
Yeah, he's my type of player. Also, just a little side note, I think I've switched in my head my prediction for this game, not only like amount of games, but which team's going to win like 6 times through this conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I think Pittsburgh got it. Oh shit, no, like, Adam Fox, it's going to be his year. He's going to really, come out and stomp all over him. And then, I think about just what Crosby likes to do in the playoffs. And I don't know. I'm lost. I don't know, boys. I don't know where I'm going on this one.
So
Okay, why don't you lead us
you
off
should
then?
lead us off then. Give her
Well, fuck. Okay. Who's got home ice?
Rangers.
Rangers. So they're gonna go into the Garden. This new team. Everyone's gonna be. I don't know. I really believe in Adam Fox. I think. I think it's gonna go to 7, but I think New York's gonna squeak it out. I think this one's gonna be back and forth down to the wire, but I think New York's gonna squeak it out in 7.
Nick,
Anybody else?
Chase, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I'll go. I'm kind of the same as Nick. I kind of came in, maybe not this podcast, but into the day kind of thinking the Penguins might have what it takes, but like you kind of refresh my memory. They look good against the Islanders last year, but if they can't beat the Islanders, I don't think they're going to beat a high flying Rangers team with Shesterkin in net, and they're coming back with Casey DeSmith. So I think Rangers in 6. I don't think it goes 7. I think they win it. I think Crosby goes out in his own barn this year, unfortunately.
Ooh, tough. FO?
You guys have picked every favorite in this so far. You guys are fucking losers. Sid the fucking Kid has gone out in the first round, I think the last 3 years in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? Captain Canada, maybe a top 5 player of all time, and you're gonna count this guy out? I'm taking Pittsburgh, OT, game 7. Sid probably does a ridiculous backhand pass to Jake Gensel. Pitt's moving on.
All right. I can really see that too. Like I hate, that was a big thing of like, I have a lot of reasons in my head to go New York. And the one reason in my head on Pittsburgh is just like, I don't want to bet against Crosby, but after this conversation, I think, I don't know. I can see
don't
it going.
worry, FO. I think I'm going to pick the lower seed in the next series. So
well, let's fucking get to it, boys. We got the Leafs and the Lightning. Holy shit. Inject playoff hockey into my goddamn veins, baby. Honestly, this one, I was hoping for Boston. I think exercise some demons. But hey, you gotta beat the champs to beat the champs. Why not take down and slay the dragon early and go on a run here?
Interesting.
I think you're hoping for Boston because you're absolutely petrified of the fucking Lightning. I think anyone in their right mind would rather play the Bruins over the Lightning, and especially after that 8-1 beat down a week or so ago. I think it's midgets. I think the mental midgets out east there might rear their ugly heads. I think. And I will say about this series, I think it's the most boring jersey matchup in this blue and white is going to be the most boring game. You're going to blend together. It's but no, in all seriousness, I think this series is going to be fucking wild. This is probably, other than the Oilers series, obviously, I think this is probably up there for me. It's going to be crazy. Ball to ball.
Yeah.
Speaking of that 8-1 pumping we took, an absolute speed bag. The Hart Trophy winner wasn't playing, so I'll say that. But at the same time, I think literally a week before that, we went into Tampa and pumped those guys 5-2. So watch yourself with that. This could be one of those series where it goes 7, but the team that wins by like 2 or more every game. Tampa absolutely runs our show, then the Leafs go in there and run their show, and just kind of back and forth like that.
Right. And like, I agree with that, FO. And I think what gives me a lot of faith in Tampa is just over the last couple of years, we've seen that they can play any way you want to go. If you want to go full on track meet, high scoring, they can do that. If you want to play greasy, hitting, fighting, scrapping, they can play that way. They can almost play any way you want to play. And honestly, there's no goalie in the entire NHL I would least want to see in the playoffs than Vasilevsky. That is, as much as I've bagged on Toronto every year for the last, since I've been alive pretty much, and I've had no faith in them. I thought they were going to go with the first round. This was the year I thought, holy shit, they could be deep for a run. But if they run into Tampa, they're in trouble. And sure enough, that's who they lined up against. I think I would almost want any other matchup in that entire East than Tampa for Toronto.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think I agree with you, Nick, where you say Tampa can play any way that you want to play. But I think the only wording I would mix up there a little bit is I would say Tampa Bay is going to play any way that they want to play.
Exactly.
I think they have shown that they can dictate it. They'll come up with a strategy. John Cooper will have some sort of strategy that works, and they will make the Leafs play that way for Fraser's sake. I hope they don't. I hope the Leafs can keep their high octane and do some damage there. But I think Tampa is so good at dictating the way the game goes.
Yeah, and I think that more than just the ability that they can play anyway, I think what Fraser was saying about how it's going to be back and forth, and I think Toronto's going to take some games, but I think their ability to change on the fly, and they might play one way in the first couple of games, get some wins, and then Toronto kind of figures it out, and then they come out completely different later in the series and smoke them again, right? Like I think exactly they're a chameleon. I think with John Cooper and the way they know how they buy into the system, whatever he tells them they need to do to win that series, they will do, and they have all that skill to back it up. And I'm just going to keep coming back to Vasilevsky on each time. I think he is the best goalie in the NHL, and he's going to be the best goalie for a lot of years. And I think Tampa's scary for every team in that division. FO?
I think it's incredible. Like Tampa has probably the best coach in the league, top 3 at least. Mm-hmm. Best goalie in the league. I would say the best defenseman in the league. I don't think he's going to win the Norris this year, but I would say Hedman's the best defenseman in the league. Kucherov is a top 5 forward in the league. He was injured this year, but I mean, his points per game were off the hook. Braden Point is a guy that seems to always perform in the biggest moments. It seems like whenever Tampa wins a big game, they got a closeout game or an elimination game. Braden Point always seems to get like that one goal where it's just like, this guy's incredible. Stammer had a comeback year. If this wasn't like a crazy
40.
like year where there was so much
points.
scoring, Stammer's a Hart Trophy finalist at the least. But everyone's just had crazy years. That 100 points doesn't really mean that much this year in terms of, kind of the ranking. But Tampa's scary, man. I think, they're the 2-time champs. They're this era's dynasty, and they are more than poised to go on a run if they can.
And I think one other guy that you didn't mention, this might sound a little silly to mention in that company you just did, but they have a number 1 forward, number 1 goalie, number 1 coach. And I think they have a number 1 glue guy, in Pat Maroon. I know that sounds silly, but Corey Perry. Yeah.
Dude, you know what though?
I hate Corey Perry as much as the next guy, but do you know what I think a lot of people don't understand is Montreal went to the Cup final last year. Corey Perry was on that team. And I just read
he went to the Cup final like 3 years in a row.
Yeah, I read a little bit about Corey Perry and like how his relationship with Cole Caulfield and some of those young guys was so good in the room and underrated that he was the leader of that group. And I think, like you said, him and Maroon, I think that's just that extra little veteran element. I think I fucking hate Corey Perry, but he's a one of the better playoff performers of all time. I think maybe not.
You know who needs but you know who needed Corey Perry so bad? Like Oilers. In a year like this? No, well, Oilers too, but I was going to say the Leafs, right? Like I think if they could sub out Corey Perry for what they brought in Simmons for, I think that would make them just like the next level team that they very well are close to being. FO?
The thing with them is I'm concerned about like the depth they lost. They lost Coleman, and who was the other guy they lost to? Gord. And who did they lose to? The Rangers. Barclay Goudreau. So they lost some players. They replaced them with some players. I think they overpaid for that Hague guy, but I don't think he's a bad player who's going to help them. This series is going to be decided by a couple things. I think goaltending, who's going to win that battle? All signs would point to Tampa Bay. I mean, Vasilevsky's been an absolute animal.
Yeah.
Jack Campbell started the season. He was he was on the All-Star team, and then he kind of just fell off the map. And he's kind of refound his game here down the stretch, but that's a big factor. He's played really well in the playoffs in the past. That Montreal series wasn't on him. It was on the team just kind of melting last year. So I think it's going to come down to goaltending, and it's going to be the stars. That like your stars carry you, right? The Leafs need that Matthews and Marner line to be dynamic. They've been dynamic all year. They've been one of the top scoring lines in the league all year. What do you show? They've had games where they've lit up Tampa a few times. So I know that they have that potential, but when you look across the ice, you're looking at guys like Stammer, Kucherov, Point. So the real question mark for me is how does John Tavares and Willie Nylander play? Because they need that secondary scoring. And I don't think this is a situation where Matthews and Marner can saw off with the other top line. I think they have to beat that other top line, outscore that other top line. And I think the same thing with Nylander and Tavares have to step up in moments. Willie Nylander was probably the best Leaf in the playoffs last year, but they got to continue it. They lost Tavares last year or game 1, like 10 minutes in. So, stay healthy and perform. He's been kind of streaky this year. His point production has been right on par with like his career. But I think this is one of the last years that Tavares is going to be like one of those like really good players. I think he's going to have a decline in the next few years that is going to make that contract a little bit ugly. But they need to step up. The Leafs need those big 4 forwards up front. They pay them all that money. They need them to step up. I think the decor is a lot better with the acquisition of Giordano at the deadline. He's settled in really nice. I don't think defense is their issue this year. I know that's kind of been a thing in the past. I think 1 through 6 they're pretty comfortable, but it's going to come down to the big boys. Are the big boys going to step up?
I think you just kind of touched on the question I want to ask you, but I think if the Leafs manage to win this series, do you think the storyline coming out of it is going to be, holy fuck, Jack Campbell just outplayed Andrei Vasilevsky, they won a tight series? Or do you think it's going to be Toronto did what everyone kind of thought they would have to do? Matthews scored 5 in a 7-game series. Marner had 10 points. Like, do you think it's going to be what their offense or potentially Jack Campbell? What do you think will be the storyline if they manage to win, or both?
I mean, it's going to have to be a portion of both. I don't think Jack Campbell has to outplay Vasilevsky. I think he's got to be close to him, though. He's got to be there because Tampa's going to get chances. He's got to make big saves in games. But I think it's the big guys. Like last year, they blew that 3-1 lead, and Marner and Matthews kind of disappeared down the stretch. And Matthews lost that matchup against Philip Deneau. A good shutdown player, but Matthews has to win that battle every time. Mm-hmm. So it's the big boys. Who's going to outperform who?
What's the story with that rookie that was playing good for you guys all year? FO, is he hurt now? Is he gonna be back for the playoffs? Because he was on your guys' top line, wasn't he? Yeah.
Bunting. Yeah, Bunting is supposed to be back game 1. I mean, again, it's kind of that gamesmanship, right? They said he's going to be ready to play game 1. We'll see. I think he is, and I think he's big for them. He does a lot of the work that Zach Hyman kind of did for the Leaf, for that top line.
Thanks for him.
Previous years where you guys overpaid for him, so suck on that contract in 2 years.
I don't know, 27. I don't know.
Anyways, no, like he does those kind of, how sometimes you don't need 3-star players. You need that one guy to go get you the puck.
Exactly.
And Bunting's kind of been that guy. He's kind of an agitator too. He likes to get in the mix. He draws a lot of penalties. I think he draws the most penalties in the league. He does love to embellish some things, but I feel like every good team has to have that one rat on their team that everyone hates when you're in a series against them.
What do you guys think the special teams matchup looks like in the series?
What's that? Sorry.
What do you guys think the special, like coming out of this series? What do you think the storyline is going to be for like how the power plays matched up against each other and the penalty kills?
I think Tampa's been like a middle of the road power play this year, which is shocking, knowing all the guys they got there. And I think their penalty kill was average. Which is interesting, but I mean, that's a group that when they get hot, they can score with anyone.
Their ceiling is high. Yeah.
And I know the Leafs had I want to say they were a top 5 power play and a top 10 penalty kill. I think they led the league in shorthanded goals, which was just kind of, I don't know, you get one of those a series, maybe it changes the game.
Right.
But I don't know. Tampa's got so much skill on that power play, just as much as Toronto. I think that's an even matchup.
Yeah. Chaser?
I think FO should check your numbers a little bit. The Leafs are the best power play team in the regular season. They're 1. Tampa is 8, and their PK is hovering right around 80%. I think the Leafs are 8th. Lightning is 11th. So I think it's going to come down to 5-on-5. I think they're both going to have sick power plays. If you take penalties against the other guy, you're probably going to get scored on more often than not. So I think it's going to come down to 5-on-5. I think they're both going to get their power play touches.
Go
ahead.
To defend myself here, I think when they won against Toronto like 8-1, I think they were 16th, but they probably potted 4 peepers there. So that probably gave them a nice little bump.
Nice little chicklets bump there. What do you guys think? Do you think there's anything to that storyline going in with Maroon and Simmons getting into it so hard in that last game? Kind of a little bit of bad blood there. Do you think there's anything coming in, or that's just 2 veterans having fun out there?
That's just 2 guys battling again. Like, man, it's the 4th line. They're going to contribute maybe 2 goals in the series. That's not going to win it for you. Like, guys aren't like those guys are going to be on the ice 8 minutes a night.
Yeah, but I don't know. we've seen Tampa at times though, like John Cooper just roll those lines, and like I said, they play different against whatever they need to play. They can, but I know part of that mix of what they have in their bag is they can roll 4 lines. But to go back to what you said, they have lost a little bit of that depth, so maybe they don't have that ability to play that way anymore.
I also think too, like if the Leafs are rolling over, if the Leafs are double shifting like Matthews or something, like, and Cooper wants to throw that 4th line out there, like, go ahead, they're going to skate circles around him. So I don't think that's going to be in play. I think the big boys are going to get lots of ice. The 4th line's going to have 7-8 minutes a night. You know, it's probably a soft battle. Maroon, Corey Perry have some you know, production, but the 4th line, it's the 4th line. Like it's going to maybe win you 1 game, but it's not going to win you the series.
Right. And I have some questions on like the Toronto's top end physicality, right? There's physicality in that lineup, but I feel like Tampa Bay has a little bit more of that throughout the lineup, a little bit more. They can play a little more checking type of hockey top to bottom, right? Because even their top end guys, like even Braden Point's not that big of a guy. He'll throw it around a little bit, right? Like pretty much everyone on Tampa at times in the playoffs, you've seen them kind of all buy into that checking type game, where I think there's some question marks on Toronto where I just don't know if they have it. Like I just can't envision in my head, and maybe you would know this better than I would, FO, but like, you know, a Matthews or a Marner just, you know, chucking a big hit like McDavid does randomly sometimes in the playoffs we've seen, you know, or Draisaitl just absolutely truck somebody. I just don't see that out of some of those guys on Toronto.
I will call, like, just for the Stars, I mean, do you want, like, yeah, you got to finish your hit and stuff. And that's the thing. The random time you'll see it, like every like 4th game at a Matthews, he'll just like bury a guy in the corner, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, like, can we see that a little bit more often?
Yeah.
But I will say this: when they played Boston in the past, they've never really been pushed out of a series physically. So I don't think they're going to shy away. And also just in terms of like the fighting in the playoffs, like there's no fighting in the playoffs. The game's out of hand if there's a fight, right?
Right.
But yeah, I would give the edge to Tampa there. Like they're the more physical team. They're got a little bit more bite to them though. Like a thing I love about Kucherov is he's not afraid to like give a little shot in the back of the, like the low back of a Star.
Yeah.
Sneaky greasy, right? Sneaky greasy.
And Hedman's such an absolute manimal out there when he wants to be too. Like, not to mention all the skill he has, but like he's a big boy that can really fucking put you on your ass if you're not minding your P's and Q's.
And I think just like in terms of Matthews, he's so big. Like he's not a guy that you can just physically dominate. That I don't think it's like a guy's going to go up to him. It's not like a Sedin moment where Brad Marchand's going to go run up to you and like punch him in the face a bunch of times and not do anything.
Yeah.
Like he's like 6'3", 220, right? So he's a big body. I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, just when I look at that matchup, yeah, Tampa's got the bigger bodies. I think Tampa's the heaviest team in the league.
Really?
And I think so, but I don't know. We've seen them play Boston with Chara on that team. I just don't see it. I just don't see them getting completely wiped out by physicality.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any one factor that really, just because they are such well-rounded team. As much as I hate to say that about the Leafs, they both have turned into such well-rounded. At least Toronto's turned into. Tampa's always been a well-rounded team that I think it's going to be a lot of factors going into it, and it's going to be a lot closer than maybe even I think. Chaser?
Yeah, I think one thing with the physicality, I think Toronto can match Tampa Bay so good at the other aspects of the game where I think Tampa Bay is not going to be able to focus on trying to dominate them physically or go out of their way to lay big hits on guys, or they're going to have to worry more about staying sound in their own game and not let Matthews and those guys run rampant. I think they can't worry about bullying him around. They're going to have to worry about sticking with him.
And another thing on the goaltending is, you know, Vasilevsky's been pretty bulletproof the last couple of years. You haven't seen him go down too much. And I feel like the last 2 years with Campbell, I've seen him go down a couple times with a little bit of injury. And I don't even know. I'm trying to think of is Mrazek still backing up Toronto, or do you guys have that young kid up still?
No, we got that Shalgren, the Swedish guy. He's like a 25, 26-year-old kid. If he's playing in the series, they're in trouble. They need Jack Campbell. They need Jack Campbell.
And they need Jack Campbell to be the Jack Campbell we've seen out of him. It can't be, you know, some of those runs where he turns off a bit. Like we said at the very start, I think he needs to be that guy.
I don't think he needs to be like a Vezina Trophy winner. I mean, that doesn't hurt, right? You got a goalie who's an absolute stud back there. I think he's got to make timely saves in certain situations. There's going to be a game that's probably going to get away from them. Like, you know, Tampa's going to win 5-2. and that's okay. You have that one tough one. I think in that there's going to be a moment in a game where it's Leafs have a 1-0 lead or it's tied late and he makes a big save on a 2-on-1 or something. That's what we need from him. We need him to be above average. He can't be, he's got to be good. He doesn't have to be great, but he's got to be good.
Yeah. Cause Vasilevsky has never been good. He's always great. And sometimes he's unbelievable, but he's always great at the very least. That's an interesting,
he's a goalie who can win you. He's a goalie who can win you a series. Like he's that good. Like the Leafs could, there's a possibility that the Leafs could dominate the series, outplay Tampa. But if Vasilevsky wants to be a mutant and just be a complete sicko, he can win the series.
For sure. That was my biggest take on it going into it. And I have a sneaking suspicion, and I don't know. I've been a Vasilevsky fanboy. I hold him pretty high. Him, Yamamoto and Cale Makar are my guys that I just, they can do no wrong in my eyes.
What would you give up? What would you give up on the Oilers to get Vasilevsky?
Oh,
like, hey, hypothetical here. Would
anybody
you give up?
Yamo.
Because I don't think neither team would do this.
Yeah.
But would you give up Leon for Vasilevsky?
No.
I don't know. I think just I
think those big two are untouchable.
Yeah.
No, I know, and I agree. I think they're untouchable.
But even in my own head, in NHL 22, if I'm a GM, I'm not doing that. I don't think so. I think you can get. I think you can move other pieces to get. You don't need the top one goalie if you can get a top 10.
Dude, what other pieces are you going to move to get a guy like Vasilevsky? If you're trading for that guy, let's be honest, the goalie's the most important position on the ice. That's it. Like, if you got a good goalie, he covers up for so many issues.
You asked that question basically wanting to know, would you give up McDavid or Draisaitl? I'm telling you no.
No, because you would. McDavid's absolute no way. You don't trade that guy for anyone. You already traded the best player in the league one time in your franchise's history. You don't trade McDavid. It's a good question. Like, for me, would I trade, let's say our second best player is Marner. Would I trade Marner for Vasilevsky?
In a heartbeat.
It makes you think, man.
In a heartbeat, I'd make that trade.
I would say Vasilevsky, in terms of importance of players in the league, like of a player you want to start a franchise with, he's got to be in your top 2 or 3 picks. He might be number 1. He might be number 1.
Yeah. He's pretty young yet too, isn't he? He's like late 20s, 26, 27.
I think he's like 27 or something.
And goalies kind of come into their own later. Usually you don't see a goalie come up before he's 22, let's say. So yeah, he's an animal. He can absolutely win this series for Tampa.
He's 27.
You throw Vasilevsky though on any playoff. I want to say any playoff team,
and some non-playoff teams.
They're probably going in as a favorite, right? Like it's just you throw, like, who's a team like you throw Vasilevsky on Pitt, that changes everything for Pittsburgh.
100%. Imagine the Oilers. Oh.
What's your dream list of like realistic goalies the Oilers could get in the offseason? Who would be your go-to guy?
I would probably say realistically it would be a guy like John Gibson out of Anaheim. I don't know how realistic it would be to get Hellebuck, but I think from what I've heard, he's kind of unhappy in Winnipeg. I don't know if he'd want to stay in Canada or whatever if he has no move. But I think realistically, John Gibson would be one. Then I think maybe you look at one of the guys out of St. Louis if they're looking to move Binnington and re-sign that Husso kid, or if they're wanting to stick with Binnington and move Husso. I think there's talks out of St. Louis. So I would think that would be my top 3 scenarios there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that nails it. There's nobody else I can really think of, but I think that's more me lacking the idea of who's available.
I would say maybe that kid in Columbus, Merzlikins, is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And he might be a guy you could kind of wedge away from a team. I think they want to keep him because he's pretty young and he's pretty good. Mm-hmm. But he might be a guy you could, because Columbus is kind of stuck in limbo right now, right? Mm-hmm. I think they were the 10th seed in the East. Maybe a team. I agree though, John Gibson. I was. I guess. But the only thing is, could he have inflated numbers a bit because he plays for the Islanders, who don't give up anything?
Probably,
I don't know.
For sure.
And on Columbus, don't they have another young goalie that's also playing pretty well? Don't they have a pretty young tandem there? And like Elvis
Korpisalo
Oh yeah, no, never
Korpisalo's
mind.
the 2 for sure. And
Right.
and he played some games in the series when they were in the bubble against the
Mhm.
Leafs, and he was good. He was good. I was looking at his numbers a little bit because I was kind of like thinking around the deadline, and they're okay, and his career isn't outstanding.
Mhm.
So I don't know if he's a true number one like those other guys. But I think if you're he's probably a step up from Koskinen, but you know, at that point,
Yeah.
what are you giving
Yeah,
up to get a guy
Koskinen
like
has
that?
his moments.
Mhm. Really good, really good in the shootout.
Yeah.
FO?
To go back to that John Gibson take, Chase, I was at the deadline. I was kind of thinking like, what would you do to just like throw a goalie like that on your roster? And I'm like, I would throw Nylander. Like Nylander's had a great year. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, you switch. They got a similar contracts. They both have like cost certainty. I think Gibson signed for like another 3 years. I'm just like, man, you throw that guy on our team, and it just like fixes a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Gibson. Yeah, I agree with you, but I think Gibson wasn't really a trade deadline move just because he's got some term left. Usually they don't move term at the deadline. They'll wait till off season and then maybe throw Willie at him at the draft and a first rounder or something. I don't know.
I was just thinking like straight up, give us 1 for 1. But at the same, isn't that the shitty thing about the NHL that they have the hard cap where like you can't have a star move during, like, look at the NBA. James Harden gets traded mid-season. The guy's making like 35 sheets a year. Like, wouldn't it make games or like playoff pushes and runs so much better if you just had more flexibility at the cap? Like, that's the great thing about the NBA. Star players leave all the time. They move. Every offseason, there's 2 guys that change spots.
Yeah.
You put that into an NHL season, that would be electric.
My question is, why in the fuck does Anaheim want to move Gibson? He's probably on the best contract out of any goalie out there. He's getting paid $6 million a year. Does he just want out? He's 25, 26 years old.
He's that young.
Why would they ever move?
No.
He's younger than Vasilevsky.
I think that was just
like, who was saying that?
I think that was just manifested in my head. That wasn't like I heard from like the
insiders. I've heard rumors like last offseason and everything. The Gibson's name has been out there. It's been floating around. So I don't know who started that. So I don't know. Yeah.
Don't you think? I mean, a team in that situation where they've kind of been, they had a bit of a better year, but they've kind of been bottom dwellers. I think you got to kind of look at everything, right?
True, but I think what, like you said, number 1 pick to build a franchise around would be Vasilevsky. If you have a top, maybe not top 5, top 10, easily top 10 goalie in the league, John Gibson, at $6 million, at 26 years old, there's your piece right there. Now you got Zegras, now build around him. I don't know why you'd ever want to get rid of him. But anyways. They
have a bunch of young pieces.
Once you trade a goalie, then you're just looking for a goalie, right? So that's fair. Yeah.
So then to get back to this Leaf series, I think we covered it pretty good. Is there any other intangibles that we didn't cover in our initial run through, or do you think we should jump to our picks?
Okay, I'll say this. Actually, that doesn't make any sense. I was going to say Game 7 in Toronto, but it doesn't matter. Game 7 was in Toronto last year, although there were no fans. So what the hell even matters?
Yeah, it doesn't count. It was.
This is the first time the Leafs always go to Game 7. I'm telling you right now, lock this series in for 7. They always go to the last game in the bubble. They went 5. They've never had, in those situations with this group, they've never had that last elimination game at home. Crowd's there. Say what you think about the Toronto crowd. I think it plays a factor, but yeah, I think that's probably it. I think we've covered it. I would say goalie check to Tampa Bay, defense check to Tampa Bay. The year that the big dogs are having for the Leafs right now, I'd say check to Toronto up front. But I mean, that's closer than the other 2 battles.
FO, do you think with the lack of success that the Leafs have had, do you think the Toronto crowd, it plays a factor almost negatively to the Leafs where if something bad happens, like obviously if something good happens, it's going to help them out. That energy, the crowd's going to get bumping. But do you think it almost is a factor where something bad happens, where maybe it's totally out of the team's control? They get a bad bounce, and you can just feel the crowd kind of deflate, get that here we go again feeling, and it just permeates down to the bench, and it can almost be a bad, because I've been in Rogers here where I almost feel like that where the Oilers were going through that real tough stretch at the middle of the season. Like I almost thought Rogers Place was a disadvantage. Like it was dead in there. It was, the crowd had negative reactions and stuff. They booed a little bit. I'm not saying Air Canada Center is going to boo the Leafs, but do you think it may play a bit of a negative factor if you get deep in a series?
Listen, Chase, we're Leaf fans. Like, for the whole 3/4 of the season, Leafs Nation is thinking like, well, here we go. We go on a 2-game slump, and it's like, well, here we go. Like first round, better buckle up. Like you're in the playoffs, where you're like first round, get ready, be ready to be hurt. It's like every year they hurt us. So, but then this time of year comes around, and we get so horned up. We get so horned up, and we start to believe, baby. We start to believe. So no, I don't think that's gonna play a factor. The only way I see that being a factor is if, let's say, like Toronto jumps out to a 3-0 lead, not a 3-0 lead, sorry, a 3-1 lead. Let's say they're up 3-1 against Tampa, and they lose that game 6. Yeah, and they blew that one last year. But if they go up to a 3-1 lead, and then let's say Tampa wins game 6, or Tampa wins game 5, and it's going back down to Tampa for game 6, I think there's going to be that nervous energy where it's like, okay, like you got 2 chances to beat the champs, but you know, you're definitely nervous, and you're thinking, all right, we're coming back. You kind of already have it in your mind where you're like, okay, it's game 7 in Toronto. Like, what do you got?
I'll maybe lead us off on the predictions, but just before we hop into that, Arizona beats Nashville in regulation.
Yeah, breaking news.
So that changes up the slot. Colorado will now play Nashville, and Calgary gets Dallas, which really changes up that West, which is interesting. It sucks. I really wanted Calgary to have to play Nashville, not Dallas. But
yeah, well, Nashville has no UC Saros, so I don't think anyone's fucking afraid of them right now.
What happened to Saros?
He's hurt.
Oh shit! When did that happen? Just recently?
Is he
recently?
Confirmed? I think he got hurt like a day or two ago.
From what I've heard, it's bad. Like he's out.
Oh fuck. Okay. Well, maybe that's good that Calgary has to play Dallas then, because Colorado's going to whoop whoever you put in front of them. But so I don't know.
Nashville's backup may be better than Ottinger, Wedgwood. I don't know.
Yeah, true. I think Tampa's going to come out ruling. I think they get both games at home. I think they go back to Toronto. I think in that barn, Toronto might steal a game off them.
Hey, whoa, hey. Hey, we're the home team, buddy.
Oh shit. Team. Okay, you guys got to.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, I got to rethink my my whole plan. Someone else do a prediction first.
You go, man. You go. I'm last year.
Okay. They come in Toronto. I think Tampa Bay shocks them game 1. You know, deflates the barn. But I think Toronto's going to win one of the games at home. I think they take game 2. I don't think they're getting one. I think you're coming back to Toronto down 3-1, and Tampa's pulling out. I think 4-1. I think Tampa in 5. Sorry, FO.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's my thoughts. That's my thoughts. Is Fraser?
Okay, I'm gonna go next. I think I'm gonna turn some heads with this one. I think it is Toronto so fucking. I think it is so fucking hard to repeat, let alone three-peat. I think Tampa Bay is going to come into a bit of a buzzsaw in Air Canada. I think Canada hasn't seen playoffs, not let alone the Leafs. Canada has not seen live playoff action in 2 years. I think I'm on, as much as it pains me to say, other than Calgary, I'm a little bit on board with Canada this year because Toronto and Edmonton is all we got. So I think every good thing has to come to an end, and I think Toronto has what it takes. I think Toronto in 7. I probably took your prediction there, FO, and I might as well.
Toronto in 7.
I might as well stick with my high seed, my higher seed pick, right? So the favorites are going to sweep the East. It's going to be an electric second round in the East. All the high seeds.
FO.
Nick, you muppet. You think you're gonna lose in 5? You're such a clown. You know the season series. I think the season series was dead tied this year.
The season series was each won 2. One game went to overtime, and you guys won the overtime game. So Tampa's 2-1-1. You guys are 2-2.
So there you go. So it's tied 2-2.
And like you said, a couple whoopings and a couple close ones.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So I think this is a series that's going to have at least 2 whoopings, one each way.
Mhm.
I think Tampa's going to light up the Leafs one night, and I think the Leafs are going to light up Tampa one night. I think this one's going 7.
All
I'm
right.
very nervous for this one. I think there's a ton of pressure on this team. If they don't if they don't win this series, there's going to be serious changes. I think the management group is going to be shooken up. I think one of the big dogs are going. It's not going to be Marner or Matthews. Tavares has a no move clause. So I think Nylander's gone. But holy fucking shit, boys. It's got to happen eventually. The Leafs in 7. The Leafs in 7. Nick, I'm on board with you. I'm on board with you saying they're going to split. They're going to split in Toronto.
Yeah.
They're going to split in Tampa.
Okay.
Tampa's going to win. Then Tampa's going to win game 6. Leafs are going to go down to South Florida to need a fucking win, and the boys are gonna get it done. Holy fucking shit, the boys are gonna get it done. We're coming back to Air Canada Center, and you know what the thing with Toronto is? Those elimination games, they've kind of laid an egg. They laid an egg against Columbus. I think they scored a late one, and it was kind of a garbage time goal, and they were down down 2 or 3. They did the same thing about Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Like the big boys are gonna step up. It's their time. It's a new era. The old fucks are gone, and the Leafs are getting it done. Suck on that one, Nick.
I love it. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. I don't know. Again, it's all Vasilevsky to me. I think it's my prediction is based a ton on Vasilevsky standing on his head and just frustrating your guys as big boys. And when if they're not absolutely rolling, I don't like your chances. That's where my money's at. It's all I'm pushing it all on Vasilevsky.
We gotta fly.
All right. So now that's the East. We got them all broken down. Where should we start in the West now that we know the actual?
I think let's just start probably in the series we're going to spend the least amount of time on. I think we could maybe each say a point on the fucking Calgary series and move on. They're going to lose to Dallas. Johnny Gaudreau is the most invisible fucking playoff ghost on the planet. Mm-hmm. I think Markstrom is okay. I think they're huge fucking mean decor that there's also high on. I think they're going to get, I think Gurianov's going to skate circles around him. I think this is all totally biased. It probably is not going to happen this way, but I think Dallas is going to upset him.
I think you're a fraud. To say that Markstrom is like okay. He's gonna be second or third in the Vezina voting. I think he leads the league in shutouts.
Yeah.
What are
you talking
about? I'd say he's number 2. I'd say Shesterkin's gonna win the Vezina and he's gonna be the runner-up. You are nuts to say about that decor that you don't like him. Like the playoff hockey, that is playoff hockey. They've had an amazing year. Do I think they're flawed? I think they have some flaws, but I think every team has flaws. I think Calgary's going to absolutely mop the floor with Dallas. I think that's the one series I'm circling that's got a very big opportunity to be a sweep. Or no, Calgary's playing Dallas, right? Not Nashville.
Yeah.
That's I'm going to lock in my prediction right now because Chase is a clown. Calgary Flames in 4. Calgary Flames.
All right.
I could just never ever fucking live with myself if I predicted a Calgary series win. Like this one is probably me picking more with my heart than I'm gonna do in the Oilers series. Like I can't root for it. I won't stand for it.
Yeah.
You're a fraud.
I'm right with you, Chase, but I just have different reasoning. I think if Calgary's to win, it is just going to be on Markstrom's head because I think Markstrom is probably the best goalie in the Western Conference. I agree with you. I think they've been riding him, but where you say, playoff hockey is what they played all year, that's where I think, where every team kind of has an extra gear when they get in the playoffs and then kind of kick in that playoff mode. I think that's what's given Calgary the success they've seen in the regular season. They've been playing playoff hockey all year, and I don't think they have that extra gear. I also just think that Johnny Gaudreau is a huge piece of that offense, and he's the softest player in the NHL, and I think he's going to get bunged around. Dallas is such a boring team. They clog up the middle. They're not going to let that offense fly like they should. I think it's going to be close, but I think Dallas upsets them in 7.
Let's go. Who's picking the high seeds now?
Yeah.
This is the most fraudulent program I've ever been a part
of. It is. What? It's Oilers Uncensored, baby.
I respect it though. You have to say it. I had to pick the Leafs. You had to say it. I just think there's so many mutants on this team. Like, who's gonna mess around? I don't know. They've got that top line was probably the highest scoring line in the league this year. I think all three of those guys have 40 goals. That's incredible.
Yeah, that is.
Two of them got 100 points. But like I said, it's it's a show me series, man. Johnny Gaudreau has literally done nothing in the playoffs. Pull up his playoff stats. They probably don't even have playoff stats because he's a ghost. He hasn't played in the playoffs, has he?
Well,
Agreed.
let me just let me be the voice of reason here. I just think, who is going to score on Dallas? Like, who on that team is going to be their guy?
I think you start right at the high end. You got Rupe Hintz. You have Dennis Gurianov. Tyler Sagan is going to find his old gear. He'll tat it up. He probably has some broads in Calgary that get him all hot and horny. Yeah. He's going to be knocking beers off the boards in warmies. I think you got I think John Klingberg, that alien looking bastard, might pot a few from the blue line. I think it's a Cinderella story in the making here.
Blassetti, if you're listening to this podcast, you guys will not lose the Stars.
No.
Don't worry. Yeah. You guys are winning this one quick and easy.
Yeah. And like the biggest thing that makes my pick so fraudulent is there's no way in 7 games that the goaltending against that offense that the goaltending on Dallas can hold up against them. It's I'm not backing off my pick. Definitely Dallas in 7, but I would not be surprised to see one of those terrible goalies on Dallas get pumped for 7 in one of these games. Very easily. But still, they're going to lose in 7.
I think.
Yeah. So what do you figure? We make our predictions and move on from this travesty, or what?
Sure. Let's do it. I got Flames at 4. I got Flames sweet.
Flames at 4. Eh? Holy fuck! I got the old Stars. I think Jamie Benn. He's playing home. He's playing close to home, Saskatchewan. I think there's going to be some family in the crowd. I think Dallas in 6.
Just to kind of piggyback on this, I think Calgary's probably of the 3 Canadian teams, Calgary's the team with the least amount of pressure on them. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? They're the only one that's a number 1 seed.
Okay, so here's my thought process here. Toronto, just because the market, the history, right? The lack of playoff success. I think Calgary had a disappointing year last year, and I think that kind of lowers the expectations a tad. And then I think Edmonton kind of has so much more kind of emphasis on that market just because of who they have on that team. They got McDavid, right? They got Draisaitl. And I think Edmonton's getting swept last year by Winnipeg. It kind of is putting the pressure on them to say, like, all right, kind of get going here. Like, you guys have these 2 superstar players. You should be going to conference finals. You should be going to cup finals. You should be winning cups. But you haven't really had that success yet. And I just don't think there's that pressure on Calgary to do it.
Yeah, I would have said for sure if they would have matched up against Nashville, because I think then it's way less pressure. And I think especially with Edmonton matching up against LA, I think there's a ton of pressure on them to beat LA. Whereas I think with Dallas, that adds a little bit more pressure on, because like with what we saw to Calgary this year and what we saw to Dallas this year, I think it would be a huge upset to see them lose. Like, I'm very sure they're going to lose in 7. I still have tons of confidence, but it'd be probably one of the biggest upsets that there could be in the whole playoffs. Maybe the only bigger one would be LA over Edmonton.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the playoff teams here, and I think Dallas is probably if I'm looking of the 16, so. I'm thinking Dallas is a team you want to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Dallas or LA.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just my heart can't.
Again, yeah, same here. There's no way I can ever predict.
No, that's fair. I respect it.
I abstained from the vote.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do our predictions here and move on, because you guys aren't happy here.
Okay,
Calgary 4.
I already said Dallas is gonna upset them in 7. Completely owning that is fraudulent as fuck.
We're gonna have a billboard in Calgary when Dallas wins the series, man. They're gonna put it right up there across from the Saddle Dome.
What's your prediction, Chase?
I said Dallas in 6.
Dallas.
Oh, yeah, I think if they don't win it in the trusty confines of Dallas, I don't think they come back and win in that little shit barn they call the Saddle Dome with a little.
Didn't Dallas? I think Dallas beat them 2 years ago. Didn't they put them out of the playoffs 2 years ago? I think Calgary, didn't they have a 2-0 lead in the series? And then Dallas had the game. I think they had like back-to-back
Yeah,
games.
that was
scored
after
in like the last
that was
minute.
after the play-in round, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
They beat Vancouver in the play-in, and then they lost to Dallas. So yeah, there's some demons there. Thanks for making another point for me, Fraser. That was nice.
Yeah.
I think
that season's a bit fraudulent too, though, to come into Calgary with no fans and then go down to Dallas, which isn't known as a real raucous barn, but compared to an empty barn, it's not really apples to apples.
Yeah,
they lost some heartbreakers too. I think Pavelski scored a goal with like under 5 seconds to force OT, and then they won it in OT. I think there was another game where maybe like Corey Perry scored like a greasy goal like in the last minute to force overtime, and they won those games. So hey, maybe you guys are onto something.
Who knows? I think we are. We're sniffing. Where do you guys want to go to next? Maybe to the other, probably most obvious one, or what do you think, Chase?
Yeah, I think we went with the 2-1 seed versus wild cards in the East. We might as well stick with that in the West. Nashville coming off a tough loss. Well, not really a tough loss. They're in the playoffs either way. And I think either way against Calgary or Colorado, they're in tough, especially with no UC Saros. By the way, I looked up the Saros injury. He's a high ankle sprain. So that's a tough one. It says 4 to 6 weeks. And an ankle sprain is probably, especially for a goalie, is a tough one to play through. I think that's anything lower body, knee, hip, ankle with a goalie is tough. So I think UC's at least out for this series against Colorado. And I think it goes without saying they were behind the 8 ball to begin with. I think without UC, it's they're at the bottom of the mountain. They got to get to the top somehow, and it's bad weather. So holy fuck.
This is the biggest thing that I'm going to talk about, just Cale Makar. I think he's just absolutely the best D-man, maybe not going to win the Norris this year, but to me, best D-man in the league. So young, so talented. I'm just so excited to watch him play. I think it's going to be an absolute shit fisting. I thought it'd be a little closer, but if Saros is out, that would kind of be my only X factor that might pull it a little bit closer. And if he's out, I don't know. FO?
Yeah, UC Saros was kind of the guy that maybe he seems like another guy who can get really hot, and maybe he's a guy who can keep them in the series. I agree. They don't have him, so now that you're talking about best D-man, who do you think is going to win the Norris this year? It seems like a two-headed race with Yossi and Makar. Who do you guys think? I
think Yossi kind of locked it up towards the end there. To me, but I think I say that because I know how biased I am to Makar, so I'm just probably thinking like, to me, he should win the Norris every year. He's fucking unreal. Every time I think of him, I just think of that OT winner he scored. I just saw a replay on it before we came down here to record this. And I just, I love that guy. He's my favorite non-Oiler, I think, right now to watch.
Makar?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. What do you think, Chase, for Norris?
I think Yossi is probably going to win it. I think he's been getting consideration for the Hart. So if you're saying a guy should be in the Hart talk, maybe that doesn't necessarily mean he's the best defenseman. That just means he's super, super valuable to the Predators. I think if you took him off the Preds, they would. Who else do they have on the back end? They lost Ellis. They lost a lot of guys. So I think maybe not necessarily because he's in the Hart talk, he'll win the Norris. But I think just looking at his body of work, what he's done. Has he won a Norris recently, or was he just nominated? I thought he won one in the last 2 or 3 years.
I think he's the reigning Norris winner.
No, Adam Fox won last year.
Right. So 2 years ago, then he won.
Yeah.
2 years ago, he won.
Yeah.
I think you put up 96 points as a D-man. You got, and it's not like he's a scrub defensively, right? So I think he's the guy who's going to win it. I think to win the Hart, he had to probably hit 100 points. I think with like the years that guys are having up front, I think he probably needed that 100 points. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just pure points, he's 10 points up on Makar. Makar does have 28 goals, which is outrageous, but Yossi's got 23. So I think Yossi wins it. I think it's a close vote, though. I think of all the races, that one's probably up there for the closest actual vote.
Yeah, and I think Makar's going to win so many over his career. I think it might be one of those things where they kind of judge, he's going to win a bunch. So we'll give it to you. It's so close, I think Yossi's going to get it.
Yeah, and what's funny too? You look right in third. You know who's in third in points? Hedman, and he's got 85. He's got one less point than Makar.
Yeah.
Let's see how many goals he's got. He's got 20 goals. Like, this guy's just an animal every year.
Yeah. He's in the discussion. Yeah. Something catastrophic would have to happen for him to not be in the discussion for the Norris every year for the next
Every year, yeah.
8 years. But I also think that about Makar. Kind of. I put him in a similar category. The only thing he doesn't have is that size and physicality that he brings, but he also brings a whole bunch of shit that, you know, Hedman probably will never have too.
The one thing I think about Colorado too, if I'm looking at teams with pressure, I think Colorado's right up there too. They've had this great core. They've all been having these outrageous seasons the last 2 or 3 years, and they haven't really been able to get anything done. I think last year, who'd they lose to? They lost to Vegas, and I think Vegas kind of spanked them. Right? Vegas kind of spanked them. And then the year before that, I can't remember who they played, but they went out early. I think they went out in the second round. And it's just like, you know, McKinnon had that press conference.
Minnesota.
Oh, dude, I don't think Minnesota's won a playoff series in a minute.
Oh, I don't know. I think they have.
I think that's like a Minnesota sports curse. Like, I don't think like the city of Minnesota has won a playoff series. Not the Vikings.
What would you know about that?
Hey, the Vikings have got some playoff wins. All right, yeah. The Vikings have been there, but I don't think they've won like a playoff series since like Kevin Garnett was around.
Right, and
they were so the Minnesota Wild made it to they won rounds in 2014, 2015. They haven't won a round since.
Gotcha. So then I think what adds to the pressure though, FO, is they had a little bit of a disappointment last year, but then they added a goalie, added Kadri. I think that adds to that pressure now too, because they had a lot of pressure last year and now they've only gotten better and look more dominant. So now the pressure's on, but I think they're just so good that the pressure isn't going to come into play until later in the rounds. I think first round, it's kind of I think it's going to be a domination.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Soros out, they're gonna work over Nashville pretty easy, but I mean, it's not like they haven't been a juggernaut in the last couple of years, so it's not as though, I mean, they're kind of the West version of the Leafs. I think Colorado's only won 2 series with McKinnon on their team, so it's kind of one of those situations where, like you've got these superstar players and you're having all this regular season success, and like they went on an absolute heater this year. I think they hadn't lost the game at home in like 3 months or something. It was outrageous. Imagine being a fan of that team, going to the game every night, just being like, yep, we're getting a dub.
Kind of like being an Oilers fan.
Rip home too. Yeah. So, the past month, you guys had a lull in the middle of the season where you guys absolutely stunk.
Gave up on
I think they knew we were out of the country. They could feel the boys weren't there. It was kind of right during our road trip there. So I think good timing.
Yeah.
Another little fact there about Minnesota, the Twins, I'm pretty sure the Twins have lost 17 straight playoff games. Something outrageous like that.
That's
like they just keep getting swept.
Holy yeah.
That's tough.
Oh my God.
That's a tough look. So I think we could probably jump to maybe even predictions on this, but I have a question for you guys. If we come out of this and Nashville moves past Colorado, what is the storyline that comes out of it? What do you think the headline reads if they do upset Colorado in the first round?
McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar, broken legs, Kadri suspended for 4 games.
Dude, I was going to say that.
Avalanche takes out the whole city of Denver. Something absolutely catastrophic has to happen.
Yeah, right? I was going to say Kadri absolutely murders someone at center ice. He's fucking gone.
Yeah.
And then something outrageous happens. Yeah.
You see Soros puts 3 rolls of duct tape on his ankle and plays his mind out, comes back in game 2. Yeah.
That greasy bastard Forsberg and that sweet mustache he has.
Yeah.
Just ripping home. Like he's got probably like 6 goals.
Yeah.
Dude, you know who he looks like? Remember CJ Glasgow?
Oh yeah.
They look identical,
you're giving
man.
CJ a lot of credit there.
Dude, they look identical, man. And they both rock the muzzy, and I think they both had the flow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty good looking kids.
Studs. Couple studs right there.
And I think there's anything we're missing, I think we can jump to predictions. Because I think for myself, I think this is gonna be my pick for the sweep. I know that's not a shocker, but they're too good. I think Cale Makar gets 19 goals just this series alone. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think it's a quick one too. I'm gonna say Colorado in 5. I think Nashville's
5?
gonna find a way to get one, but
Mhm.
I
4-1. Chaser.
I'm gonna go Colorado in 5 too. I
Mhm.
think sweeps nowadays are tough to come by. I
Yeah.
haven't picked one this whole time. I probably won't. But yeah, I'll say 5. I think Colorado's just too much for the old Preds. I think maybe the Preds get one at home. That barn's usually pretty rocking in the playoffs. You get some country music going, and I think they managed to get one.
Because my thought on the sweep is going in, I was kind of thinking it was going to be 4-1 and Soros was going to steal a game. But as soon as I hear he's hurt, I'm just like, I have no faith in them to put something together. When your best player is Yossi D-man, I don't think he can put the team on his back. Maybe for a game, like I'm not surprised it'd be 4-1, but I don't see them winning much more than a game. So pretty easy to call. Then comes probably my most unsure of in the West series with Minnesota and St. Louis. What are you guys' thoughts going into that one? Chaser?
I think it's toss.
I was going to say, other than obviously Edmonton, Toronto, I said I'm kind of on the Canadian bandwagon here with those two. But this is the series I have circled. I've seen Minnesota live a couple times this year. St. Louis, they won the cup a few years ago. I think this is going to be an absolute wagon of a series, man. I think they're both big bodies. I think it's going to be a smash 'em. I think Minnesota's got home ice. I think Minnesota's barn is always rocking. Minnesota, they got some big mean dudes. Greenway, Zuccarello's not a big mean dude, but I fucking love him. He's a savvy veteran. Kaprizov is electric. I think this is the series I'm most excited for out of all of them. So. And this one, do you think you could see all 4 goalies? That's kind of what I was thinking of in this series. I think Minnesota runs Talbot, Fleury. I don't know what combination of those two. I think you gotta start with Fleury, don't you? But Talbot's been so reliable. He's been their guy. I don't know why you trade for Fleury to have him on the bench, but I think you see both of them. And then in St. Louis, I think you see both of those goalies too, with Binnington and Husso has been unreal this year.
I think the only thing was that Talbot really stepped up when they traded. Like he grabbed a whole nother gear when they traded for Fleury, which I don't think they saw happening, but I think that's why they ride him going in. You have Fleury in the back haul. If there's a bad game or anything like that, you have him to throw in there. But I really think they're going to ride Talbot in the way he's playing. If he can carry that into the playoffs, I think they're going to look pretty good. FO.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Talbot's going to start for them. I think he's the game one guy. Fleury got the game tonight. So maybe that means he's going to start. I think Talbot's going to get game 1, but I think it's like one of those situations on both teams where it's quick hook. You have a bad night, like you're out, and it's going to be kind of a revolving door. I don't see why they can't have success doing that either, but I think it's a toss-up. I think someone was telling me today that Foligno on Minnesota got hurt.
Oh.
Marcus. So that's kind of an X factor. He's kind of a big body, like he's mean. He's just a built for playoff hockey guy, right? Yeah.
I wonder what the injury is.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I think they were saying it was a knee, like a knee penalty or something, but who knows? I think it's still a toss-up though. I think Kaprizov is one of those guys who's kind of like a big moment guy. He loves like the spotlight. I think he's a guy who's going to be like a Panarin, who's kind of a big moment performer. And I think he's kind of that second tier of like superstar in the league. I think he's kind of knocking on the door of being like a Hart Trophy contender. But I mean, this one, I can see this one going either way. I'm actually going to flip a coin for my prediction, and I'm going to roll with that.
I think Minnesota has got a couple little sleeper guys. I think Kevin Fiala is super underrated. I think Ryan Hartman, he doesn't put up a lot of points, but I think he's a little guy that is going to perform well in the playoffs. He doesn't fucking back down from anybody. And like you said, I think Kaprizov is going to thrive in the moment. So yeah, I think it's going to be tight.
Yeah. I was kind of honestly leaning a little bit Minnesota's way. I think everything was pointing towards it being a tight series, but I was thinking that, I don't know. I just feel like Minnesota's finally gotten over that hump where they were always a good team, but they can never really put it all together. I feel like this is kind of their year. They seem to be really gelling. Kaprizov's a unit. I love that Kevin Fiala. He plays so good. And like to watch him come back from that femur snap in the playoffs with Nashville a couple of years back. Well, quite a few years back now. Like, and to be putting up the points he's putting up and looking that good. I just looked it up. Yeah, it was knee on knee for Foligno. That is a big thing that makes it a lot closer in my mind. I think that's kind of leaning me back towards kind of a coin flip, where I was leaning more Minnesota, but you never know. They're probably not going to put, I would love to watch a video. I couldn't find a video of it, but those knee on knee, you never really like to see that. Hopefully he's back, but I think if it can, I would lean a little bit more Minnesota, but if he's out, yeah, we're on that coin flip. FO?
Yeah, I think with just Minnesota, like, right. Sorry. I think Minnesota's another one of those teams that's kind of in a sneaky spot, like where they're kind of have to perform this year, because next year I think the buyouts of Suter and Parise kick in, and they're like ridiculous. It's like
big money.
It's like a $10 million cap hit between the two of them, or like 13 million.
I think it's over 10.
So for like the next 2 years, and it's just like, okay, well, you're playing with, you're not playing with a full deck of cards then. So, you're kind of in a spot where it's like, all right, like, got to do something this year.
Yeah, agreed. That adds a little bit of pressure onto him, but it's a different kind. That pressure is a different kind of pressure. It's kind of organizational pressure where I don't know how that translates to the players in the moment, right? I mean, I think it's probably every guy's different. It probably depends how the team's built.
That's true. It's more of a management's probably feeling that one a little bit more. Yeah.
But you never know. Sometimes it trickles down. I think that depends on the squad you got. Some guys follow that shit. Some guys are like TJ Oshie, where they don't even know, couldn't name 5 players in the NHL, right? They just go and play. But then there's some guys that are like, like Scheifele, that's such a fucking nerd. He knows all that shit. He's kind of concentrating on it. Chaser.
Next year it kicks in. It's 12.7 mil buyout. And then the next 2 years after that are 14.7. So like,
how do you even,
that's a stupid amount of cash that you're just throwing down the shitter, man. Like, well, oh my God.
That's like a number one forward and a goal.
So the next 3 years, you got 12.7, 14.7, 14.7, and then after that, you're good. So the next 3 years after this, they're going to be in some cap doo-doo, I think.
Yeah, that is obscene.
Yeah, organizational pressure of the yin yang. After that, I wasn't aware of that. That blows my mind.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oof the mama.
Oof the mama. Oof the mama.
The mama is right.
So we kind of talked goaltending. I kind of know both of the St. Louis is just big. They got a decent decor. They got Torrey Krug. I really am a big fan of Torrey Krug. It seems always in the playoffs he becomes a little wrecking ball out there. I just remember some of those hits he threw in the Boston series against Toronto and shit. Like he was really fun to watch. He's kind of got that extra gear. I don't know what Minnesota's back end as well. Who's
they got Dumba, they got Spurgeon. Spurgeon's their captain.
Right. Yeah. Dumba's good.
Yeah, I mean, Torrey Krug is awesome. I hated him when he played on the Bruins. When he left, I was so happy. He's a great player. He's a great player.
He could be a big factor. Yeah, he has that X factor. He could be a big piece. What else? What do you think we haven't covered, or do you think we should go into our picks?
How about Tarasenko? How about Tarasenko having a good year?
Yeah.
Right? He demanded a trade, and he seems like that's a guy you want on your team. What's his contract? What's Tarasenko making a year?
I think it's pretty reasonable. I don't know. Chase will look it up, but from memory, I think it's one of those deals where
he's not outrageous. I think they kind of got him right in the slot of where it's not going to be something that's not manageable, but it's not little. Let me get on it here.
That's a pretty I think either which way you cut it, I think this is going to be a pretty exciting series. And I'm curious to see with, how that Kaprizov has looked this year, and it seems like he's dialed right in. I'm curious to see what kind of damage he can do in playoff hockey.
Tarasenko, Tarasenko is making 7.5. Ryan O'Reilly's making 7.5. So that's kind of right in the slot of where I put him.
I'm looking at his numbers right now. He had 34 goals, 42 assists, 82 points in 75 games.
Yeah,
that's a pretty value contract. That's a great season, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
I think the biggest value on the Blues is Kyrou. What are his numbers? He's getting paid 2.8, and I think he had more points than Tarasenko. Am I wrong?
Let me take a look here.
just like the eye test, Kyrou looks like that guy out there, especially if he's
Kyrou
making 2.2.
is so good.
Mm-hmm. Especially
27
Kyrou had
48. Yeah.
Yeah, 75 points. Buchnevich had a 76 points this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good year.
Yeah, they're sneaky good. Again, you guys are changing. I was again starting to lean towards Minnesota, and then you're reminding me of some things I was forgetting, but I don't know. I think
Parayko's a big.
So are you saying you want
Parayko's
to
just
jump
a big
into
animal.
predictions?
I think we could. He is an animal. Oh my goodness, you too. Yeah, I could jump to predictions. What do you guys think?
I think
I'm ready for it.
Touched. Holy fuck.
What is going on, you guys? What happened to the hand up thing? What happened to the hand up? Chase has got his hand up. Let's go.
Okay, I'm ahead of. I think we should jump into predictions. I think there's not a heck of a lot to discuss as far as storylines. These teams are both pretty healthy, other than Foligno. If you said he got hurt tonight, that's a fairly big loss for the Wild. Mm-hmm. So I think with that being said, the season series, St. Louis was 3-0. 2 of those games went to OT, so I don't know how much weight you could put on those. But I think St. Louis is going to take this one. I think they're a little bit bigger on the back end, maybe not necessarily up front. I think they got some sneaky good guys up front. Ryan O'Reilly. I think we forget about Braden Shen. Robert Thomas had a really good year. Kyrou, Tarasenko. I think they're super deep. I think either one of those goalies can get hot. Husso's been the guy throughout the year. Binnington's done it in the playoffs before. So I think whoever's in net, I think is going to be solid for them. I think the St. Louis Blues in 7.
Wow, St. Louis in 7 for Chase. And Minnesota's got home ice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. FO, you want to go or you want me to take her away?
I'll go. Yeah, I'll go. Of all the series, I think this is the biggest coin flip. Mm-hmm. I mean, they both 2 teams that play similar styles. I don't know if they have if either team has like a glaring weakness. It's going to be rock'em sock'em hockey. Like there's going to be there's going to be one of those series where every whistle there's going to be scrums and it's going to be awesome. I honestly think it's a coin flip. I'm going to flip a coin here. I got heads is my St. Louis Blues. And I got heads, so I guess I got the Blues, and I think it's 7 also.
7.
We'll go with 7.
Couple game 7s. I think it's going to be Minnesota in 6. I think it's going to be a split and a split. I think as the series goes on, Minnesota's going to find their groove, and I think they're going to start to put the pressure on them a little bit later in. I think they take it in 6. I don't know what's telling me this. Is just a gut feeling. I think Minnesota's been good all year, and I think they're gonna get through it. They might come out a little bit banged up, which is interesting for how the rest of the series are gonna shake out, because I just think St. Louis is such a big body team. But I think Minnesota's just a little bit better, and I don't know why. I kind of lost faith in Binnington. I don't have anything to back that up, but I just don't. I think he had that 1 year where he was spectacular when they won the cup there, and I just don't think I've ever seen that form out of him. It doesn't mean he can't find it again, but I don't quite have the faith. I'm going to go Minnesota in 6 on that one, which leaves us with the most exciting matchup.
Now,
live from the Rogers.
Cue the John Cena music.
Allow me.
Cue the John Cena music.
Allow you. Yeah. Oh my God. The reigning, defending, getting swept champions. Edmonton Oilers, completely revitalized with the likes of Evander Kane coming in on a heater. Zach Hyman might be overpaid, but he is really filling out that roster, giving them the depth that they need, allowing to push down Nugent Hopkins onto the third line, giving us finally more than 2 lines of hockey, if not 1 when we really had to load up. I think this is a different team that we haven't seen before. Only question mark for me going into it, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more discussions of this, is the nurse. How healthy is he? Probably going to play, but is he going to be back to 100%? And then the goaltending. We have Mike Smith playing some really unbelievable hockey, but he's 40 years old. We've seen him go down to injury, I think, 3 times this year, if not 4. A little bit of question marks there, but if he can stay healthy, I really like Edmonton to not only beat LA, but put together a little bit of a Runsky poo. Boys.
Yeah, I think I'll hop on there. And I think, first of all, I'm going to address a couple things you said. I think Mike Smith, I think maybe 1 or 2 of those injuries, I think were legit. I think he more so was giving his body a rest. I think he and the training staff and everybody knows I'm fucking 40. I can't be playing 50, 60 games a year, whether he was sitting on the bench as a backup or whether he was staying at home with his kids and doing some physio and revamping some sore limbs, sore back, whatever he has. It seems to have fucking worked. And whether it was him or the management or whoever his idea it was to focus on rehab this year and get him in when he can at the beginning of the year, whatever he's done to manage himself and manage his year, I think it showed to work. His game, like the rest of the team, seems to be peaking at the right time. And I think if anything, Edmonton going into this playoffs is maybe going to benefit a bit from where they are in the league. I think if they're in the East, I think we're talking a hell of a lot different story about the Oilers right now. I think if they were in the East, they're sitting in one of those wild card spots.
Yeah.
Where now they're sitting in the West. I'm not going to say it's a weaker division. I'm not going to say it's a weaker conference. I might just say it's a little bit less top heavy of a conference. Yeah. I think because if you look at from the last wild card spot in the East to where the Islanders were, it was, I don't know, was it a 20-point difference? It was close
to it.
Whereas I think the middle part of the Western Conference is a lot stronger than the East. Definitely from those, first 3-4 teams that miss the playoffs. I think they take a bit more points away from the top end in the West. So I think coming in against a team like LA, Dowdyless LA. I don't know if Dustin Brown is back yet.
Yes.
So I think they're in a good spot. If they win, they're going to get either Calgary or Dallas. I think it's just shaping up, and knock on wood, as long as nothing out of the ordinary happens. I think they're all peaking right at the right time. I think it's shaping up for a good run here.
Yeah, exactly. And I like what you said about Mike Smith. I really agree with some of the things you were saying there. And I've mentioned this before on different podcasts and other things, but Mike Smith has one of the highest ceilings of any goalie I've seen. Like when he is on, he can play some unbelievable hockey. I always go back to that series when it was Calgary versus Colorado, when Colorado beat them, but he was facing like 45 shots a night and just absolutely standing on his head. He was the only reason that series was close. Colorado was buzzing all over the ice. McKinnon was a manimal, and Mike Smith played some of the best playoff hockey I've seen. And to know that he has that form in him, and like it was a few years ago, but I really feel good about that. The Doughty list part of LA is probably the biggest factor that gives me that confidence. They were talking on Chicklets about, what's that buddy that was on Montreal last year? Now he's on LA, really good shutdown guy, Deneau. And they were talking about that. And it was, not putting worry in my mind, but in the past, a guy like Deneau could really do damage to the Oilers because they were so top heavy if he could shut down a line. But what really makes me feel good about it is that with the additions they have this year, that we can kind of field 3 solid lines. It gives us that extra depth where even if he is playing some really good shutdown hockey, we can be rolling on a bunch of different lines, right? That Draisaitl Hyman line is just as deadly as that McDavid line as times. And then to show on your hand up. Oh yeah. And for people that
how could you forget Yamamoto out of that line?
Dude, I just
you say the Hyman, you're all Yamo, and then say Hyman Draisaitl line. Come on,
I'm just trying not to. Guys. I think there's probably going to be a drinking game developed at some point on the Oilers Uncensored podcast for every time I bring up Yamamoto. So I'm just trying to keep people at a regular amount of sober here and not bring him up. He's on the line. I love him. And this is the thing. I think that's probably going to be just trying to put Oliver's jumping back into the pod here. We lost him for a bit. I
thought he just ditched because he didn't want to hear us talk about the oil. I thought he's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Just to steal, man, just because we did lose Fraser for a bit there, and I'm sure he's going to be trying to poke holes in some of this. And probably one of the things he might say is that, a guy like Yamamoto might get exposed in the playoffs. And I really don't think so. I have all the faith in the world that he's going to grab that extra gear. He's shown his ability to take huge hits, take so much abuse, and really keep on ticking. And the way he digs for pucks, the way he turns things over, I think he's going to be an absolute manimal, and I'm so excited to see it. FO, welcome back.
Back, baby.
Sorry, boys. The internet is being a little fishy at the biggest moment of the podcast. I'm on Oilers Uncensored.
I know.
And the Wi-Fi drops.
Yeah, last time you get invited on the pod.
So I'm sure you two Your two big yips were probably pumping the tires of the Oilers.
Oh, just a little bit. You know,
I
us.
don't know about Yamamoto, but what's up with you and his fanboy? Like, Chase, give me your opinion on Yamamoto because I can't get one out of him. Do you think he's good? Like, what? Like, do you think he's
I think
more
I
than
think
like a
Yamamoto-
middle
Careful.
six forward?
I think he's going to be a top 6 for his career. And I think if I were to draw a comparable, I think it would be maybe like a Brian Rust, or probably not the high end as a Gensel, but maybe his highest ceiling could be like a Kunitz, kind of that small guy that you don't necessarily think is going to be all that physical, but is an absolute little, I'm not even going to say pit bull because he's not that big, like a little French bulldog in corners. Like he's like Fraser said, he's got some bite to his game, even though he's 5'6". I think he's listed at 5'6", so he's probably more like 5'4". I really like him. He thinks the game really well. He's proved he can play with McDavid, Draisaitl. He can kind of mend his game to which one of those guys he's playing with. Draisaitl, he can slow it down a little bit. He looks for Draisaitl a lot. McDavid, he knows where to go, and McDavid's going to get him the puck. He's a little net hound. I think he's small enough where he gets lost a little bit around the front of the net, and I think that's to his own benefit. He's not afraid to go there, and I think he's a great player. I think he's awesome.
Yeah. And his strongest suit is his mentality too. That's what I've seen right from the start. Right from when we drafted him, and he was fiery in the draft. You know, like, I've been high on this guy, and I think that's what carries him through. And I think if you're going to play that big when you're that small, you need to have that mentality. And I think he's already proven it. He's got it. And it needs to be proven a little bit in the playoffs, but I have all the faith in the world that he's going to keep that rolling into it. FO?
Yeah, I mean, he's in a pretty good spot for his career. If he can find a way to gel with one of these two big centermen they got, I mean, there's nothing to say why he can't have a nice career.
Yeah, and he's gelled with both of them so far.
Yeah, I think I've obviously missed a lot what you guys said, but I think Edmonton wins this series. I think the Kings are not quite ready yet. They don't have Doughty. Did I hear that Quick might not be playing? Is Quick playing?
I hadn't heard that.
Where did you hear that?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That'd be news to me.
I'm probably talking out my ass here then. Yeah, I think Edmonton's a better team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you more or less confident going into this series compared to the Winnipeg series last year?
I think I'm less confident, but that is probably just a result of what happened last year. I think I was very confident going into last year, and maybe not even confident that they would get a win, but just confident that it was going to be a better showing and it was going to be a good series. And I think a lot of people forget that there was 3 overtime games in that series. They got swept, but there was 3 overtime games. So I think when you get into OT in the playoffs, really anything can happen. But for me, the biggest question mark and where my confidence level may dip a little bit is Darnell Nurse. I don't think it's serious. I don't think it's going to keep him out the whole series. But the last I saw, one of Jason Greger tweeted he may be out game 1. So they'll probably have a better sense come the weekend, maybe when they get all the boys in practice and whatnot. But I think Nurse probably is my biggest concern. It's
a damn shame that last year the Leafs had to go out in the first round.
Oh man,
and the Oilers had to go out in the first round, because it's that's probably their only opportunity to get a playoff series, unless by some chance they both go on a run at some point at the same time, which is so unlikely. To see like a Matthews McDavid playoff series, it would have been absolutely awesome. But obviously both of our teams took a dump in their pants and were sent packing early.
Yeah,
not this year, baby.
Mm-hmm. And that was kind of, I think, in my first kind of rundown when FO wasn't on there, that was the only thing I didn't mention was the Nurse thing. But I think with how well they've been playing, I think getting Broberg, that was really nice to see Broberg get his first NHL goal. Before that, kind of someone that can slot in there. I think Chris Russell playing some decent hockey, coming back and at least a little bit of reps before, even if we do not have Nurse for game 1, even game 2, I think without them having Doughty and just the difference in skill up front is really going to carry him through even without Nurse for a couple games. And then also that is just being said with already what we covered with the goaltending, as long as that holds up, that's kind of the big X factor, because Quick always has it in him that Quick could be that guy that just stands on his head and plays like he used to. And does some damage, but we're not going to talk about that.
One, I think realistically Quick is a little beyond that point. I think his style of goaltending, because he's not that big of a guy, his style of goaltending has always been come out of the blue paint, cut off every angle, be very good at angles, and then trust that you are the most athletic fucking goalie out there, that you can get back and cover and make acrobatic saves. And I think he's just, that style of goalie doesn't age well. I think Mike Smith's style of goalie ages well, where he stays deep in the crease. Lundqvist was always talked about how deep he was. They don't rely more on their athleticism. And I think Quick, all he relies on athleticism. I remember watching Quick. He comes out of the net so far. I remember thinking he comes out the farthest of any goalie I've seen. And then he makes unbelievable saves getting back just because he's so athletic. So I think he's a little bit beyond that point. And then on Doughty, personally, I'm a little sad. I think it's good for the Oilers that he's out. But as you like Cale Makar, I think Doughty has always been one of my favorite non-Oilers. I fucking love Doughty. I love his little mic'd up quotes like, you slash me again, you fucking fuck. Like, I've loved Doughty since day one. And I think it would have been cool to see him in a playoff series against the Oilers, but probably a blessing that he's not in the lineup.
It's got to make you a little nervous too, that the Kings at least have that history, right? Where you think, well, can Kopitar kind of turn back the clock for a series? Can Quick turn back the clock for a series? I mean, they got that pedigree, so.
On Kopitar, I think I'll give you this question. Out of all the teams in the West, not best centerman, but does anybody in the West have a better 1-2 like shut down defensive all around top two centers?
In the West?
Yeah, in the West, like out of teams that Oilers could match up against. Like if you look at 1-2 centermen, I think LA has the best defensive 1-2 centerman punch out there. And I had that in my notes where Nurse and those top two centers freak me out, because Kopitar's done it his whole career and Deneau did it last year on a team that went to the Cup Finals. Like, I don't want to, start panic, but I think that's a tough matchup. And I think if Kopitar and Deneau, it might be tougher when they don't have home ice. I think Woodcroft will be smart and try and weasel his way around some matchups there. But I think in LA, it's going to be tough. You got, I don't know who they're going to match up against McDavid. You'd have to think Kopitar, but also maybe Deneau, because Deneau,
I think it's going to be Deneau.
Might be a little quicker. They might want Kopitar out against a bigger body in Draisaitl. But I think, like I said, if you look even like St. Louis and Minnesota, who are their top two centers? Like Shen and Kyrou. I think it's Kyrou center. Like, I think those two centermen pose a bit of a threat, and I don't like it. I think they might win a game or two just because they get the best of the matchups there at the centerman position.
Yeah, and I think that's where that really highlights the loss of Doughty, because I think when you have those two big shutdowns with a D-man like Doughty to back that up, that's really difficult. But I think losing Doughty takes a little bit of the sting away from that. And then the other thing that, me and you have been kind of preaching all year, Chase, is there's so many guys on the Oilers that on paper have that ability to really step up in playoffs. We have a ton of that. And it was a little bit scary for part of the year where we thought, holy shit, we're going to really need a bunch of guys to step up. And now we're playing so well before that. It's interesting to see what kind of ceiling we're going to have when you add that into it, right? Like Duncan Keith in the playoffs, the way he does his stick work, like that should be great. Fogel has been a mutant. Hyman, that's maybe a question for FO. I don't know that as much, but just with his style of play, it seems to lend itself. And then, a couple other guys are maybe a little bit more unproven, just like a Bouchard that got 42 points this year. How is he going to do it in that playoff hockey? He's always seems like he just has no, his blood pressure doesn't get over 65 ever in any game ever. Like, does that hold up in the playoffs? We don't know.
Get a whoop on him, right?
FO, what do you got, FO?
Just to touch on the Hyman thing, I think he's a gamer. He's a guy who kind of like, he's going to carry over whatever he's had in the regular season into the playoffs. I don't think a moment like gets too big for him. I think he just kind of plays his game, and it's not like a super skill game. It's kind of like go get the puck, track it down, create a turnover, and get it to like the superstars, right? So I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, he likes
I think Hyman is that type of player where his style of game, he doesn't really need to amp it up that much in the playoffs because he just keeps playing the same way. He's always kind of that relentless little dog that never gives up. And he'd probably be that guy in the outdoor rink where you're trying to have a little bit of fun and he's hacking you in the shins and he's just trying a little bit too hard. And you're like, dude, fucking chill. Like, but I think he always just has that little bit of fire in his eyes. He has a lot of fun. I can tell he gels well on the bench. He's always giving guys pats on the shin pads, and you don't see a lot of that on the Oilers. He's one of the few that is a really go-getter on the bench, and I like that a lot. So I think he'll be good in the playoffs.
Yeah. I've also been surprised by his speed at times this year. Like I always thought of him kind of as a digger, good guy in the corners, like you said, but he's got a little bit of wheels to him at times, you know, and maybe that's just him always trying so hard that he gets a jump on guys and he skates so hard like a bastard that he gets in those positions. But I don't know. I haven't been disappointed with how he moves his boots either. FO?
He honestly he's one of the best forecheckers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why he works so well with like a star player is he can just go get the puck and then he doesn't need to play with the puck. As soon as he gets it, he gets rid of it. He gets it on their stick and then he just, goes to the net and like gets home greasy goals. Like he doesn't score pretty goals, but he produces, right? So that's the guy you need in the playoffs.
Especially on a line with Draisaitl and Yamamoto, because Yamamoto's much the same way where he is so hard, he goes, gets pucks, he digs hard in the corners, he gets pucks and distributes. And then when you get the puck to Draisaitl, he's so hard to get the puck off of that. Like it's a really good combination. Like their possession sometimes just gets so dominant that it's hard for teams. They're one of the best lines that they can kind of get teams caught and get them tired in the offensive zone, get a change, right? We've seen them do that a ton this year. And I think just with how they're going to match up and just raise their level, I think we're going to hopefully see a little bit of that. I think that's where the question comes in against, is it Kopitar that's out there? It's a little bit tougher to do to a guy like that, but I have faith that they're going to do it at least a couple times this year. We're going to see them really get dominant in the offensive zone. Chaser,
I got a question for you. A little bit of a throwback question. If the Oilers make a run here, I always remember the 06 run. Who, like, if you take out the big boys, who on the, probably even Evander Kane in this, who on this team is probably could be the next like Fernando Pisani? Who do you think could be the next like unsung hero to come and get 10, 12 goals? Okay, go.
FO.
Yeah, I know what Nick's gonna say. So I'm gonna go first.
I don't think you do.
You're gonna say Yamamoto.
Nope, that's not mine.
Okay,
he is one of the big boys. Come on.
I'm gonna say Hyman. I'm gonna say Hyman's that guy.
Yeah.
I feel like he's just a guy who gets like he could have a series where he goes on runs where he puts up points because he's gonna get assists with Draisaitl and he's gonna bang home dirty goals and he could be cruising at. Let's say they go on a run and they play 15 games. I could see him having 20 points in 15 games.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like maybe for sure Hyman, Yamamoto, but like when I look even further down the lineup of who I think is going to do damage relative to what you're going to expect out of him, I just got a feeling about Derek Ryan. I feel like he's been, had a tough point in the start of the year. Yeah, he's a heat bag. I don't know. I just have that inkling. He's been playing pretty good hockey, but like towards the end of the year, he's kind of coming on strong. I think he's going to be in that third line with maybe the Fogle, Nuge, and they've really started to develop a little bit of chemistry. And I think he just works so hard. He doesn't have the size, but he has a lot of other things, and he's got kind of that wily veteran presence, and he seems to be in the right spot a lot. And I think that's sometimes what it takes in the playoffs, just to be in the right spot to bang it home.
Okay, so before we go to FO, I'll give you my answer to the question. I have given a little bit of thought. I've been a supporter of his on the podcast. We've kind of given him some grief though at times. I think the old goofball Jesse Puljujarvi. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think he's playing on the top line. He's gonna get some time with McDavid and McDavid and Kane. He's a big body. He moves quick. He's a good forechecker. He's not overly physical, but he goes to the dirty areas. Mm-hmm. And I think we've said it a bunch of times. He is literally all he needs to do is learn how to finish a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think if you get him in the playoffs, McDavid's gonna eventually shoot one off his shin pads and it might get him going. Like he's gonna get some looks. And if I really think if he can just maybe get one or two, I think floodgates might open a little bit. And I think Puljujarvi, I think he's going to get the looks. I think he's up there on the top line. He's got all the opportunity in the world. I think it could be old JP 13.
And the crowd fucking loves JP. So if he does start to pot a couple, they're going to go nuts. And I think he could ride that too. And I think another big piece is, he's not physical, but in the past, we've seen him really get rattled by the physicality and not be able to play that game at all when they throw. That's kind of his kryptonite. But this year, he hasn't added, a ton of physicality to his game, but I think he's dealt with the physicality and kind of grown into his body a little bit more, where he's less of a liability in that area. I think we're not going to expect him to go trucking guys, but I don't think he's going to get worked over. He can kind of use that big body of his now. FO?
I'm just going to make a comment on the Derek Ryan thing. Yeah, I would say if Derek Ryan is your leading scorer, the Oilers aren't, either he's on the absolute heater of all heaters, or the Oilers aren't going on a run. Like, I just think, like,
I don't think he's a leading scorer, but I think he might pot a couple, and I think he might be one of those surprise guys where you get a little bit of production out of him where you don't expect it.
Yeah, but we mean like Fernando Pisani. Like,
I was saying
guy
got to step up and kind of go off the charts and get like scored double digits in goals or something crazy.
No, that's going to be Yamo for sure. Then, yeah, okay.
That's my answer.
Yeah. Okay, well then, who do you guys think is going to be that guy that like you don't expect anything out of him, but it could come in and surprise you? Because that'd be my Derek Ryan. Jason?
Ryan McLeod. I think mine would be Ryan McLeod. I think everybody wouldn't expect much out of him just because he's a rookie, but I think he's going to expect it out of himself just listening to him talk. And I think he knows what he is. He knows that he has it in him. And I think you've kind of seen him grow throughout the year. You've literally seen his confidence rise. That he holds onto the puck longer. I think Ryan McLeod, I think he has the opportunity to shine a little bit. I don't know where he's going to play, if he's going to slot in on the fourth line or if he'll be, I think they really like Fogle to the left side of Nuge. So I think McLeod will almost center that fourth line. So he's going to not play so many minutes, but he might get some easier minutes and he'll hopefully kill some penalties. I think he can step up. Hopefully he does.
And I think I wouldn't be surprised to see him work himself up the lineup too, if he is playing good, right? Like, I think we're both expecting Fogle to have a bit of a, an added gear to his game that we haven't maybe seen all year yet. But if he doesn't, I would not be surprised to see McLeod, because McLeod's gotten better. Like I've said this a million times, I think every game he's played, McLeod's gotten better. And I've been just over the moon about how he's playing. And I think if he keeps that trajectory going, he could be one of those guys that is, really sneaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a Fogle. He's done it before. He's kind of had big goals and big moments for the Hurricanes. So I'm going to say he's probably the guy that stands out to me. But I think if someone's going to be leading the team in points, it's going to be one of the two big boys. And that's what they need. Edmonton needs those two big guys to dominate.
Yeah.
Big time.
Here's my question. At home in the playoffs, would you rather the fourth line right side, would you rather have Cassian or Archibald in the lineup? I know they've been leaning towards Cassian more recently. Archibald, that for some reason hasn't been playing. I don't know. I liked him the first couple games. He was kind of back up to his old stuff, hitting and whatnot, but I think they've leaned more towards Cassian. He stepped up his game a little bit. He's not scoring or nothing, but who would you rather see there?
You got an empty netter. I don't know. I think I would like to see them first game try out Cassian, just because he has that history of when that when Rogers place gets rocking like that, and when he starts throwing his hits around, like that San Jose series, that was unbelievable. Like the way he played and the way he elevated when that got behind him. I think you've got to try it out and see if he's got that gear. But I think again, it's short hook, and I think you throw Archibald, because I think you know what you're getting on Archibald. He's that guy that plays playoff hockey every time he steps on the ice. And I was always so big on him, but I think I'm a bit blinded by my love of guys that hit. And this young guy was actually at the game. He said something that I really liked, because he said, "Oh, I don't like Archibald." I was like, "Oh, kind of because I'm big on it." I said, "Like, what don't you like about him?" I said, "He's great. He's one of the only guys that hits. He really drags them into the fight," which I think the Oilers have kind of lacked. I think Kane kind of fills that role now, but he said, "I just don't like how much he's willing to take himself out of position to throw the hit." And I was thinking, "Oh, maybe that would be, because Cassian is such a different type of hitter than Archibald, where he doesn't have to, throw his whole body Torrey Krug style to really throw a guy, which kind of does take you out of the play." I think maybe that might be the edge that changes that. But I think, again, Cassian, the rest of his game has to step up, where if he's just hitting,
we need more out of him. We need to see kind of a resurgence out of Kassian, because we've been a little bit disappointed with what he's brought as a complete player for the last little while, the whole year pretty much.
Definitely.
Yeah. What about you? Who would you rather see in that?
I think Kassian as well. I think you brought up 2017. I remember that game. He scored was it 2 shorthanded goals? One was shorthanded for sure.
Yeah.
And just a few real big hits, and they won 2-0. So he had the only 2 goals of the game. I think if he could ever channel that again and bring that back, I think his playoff upside is more than Archibald. So I think you gotta run Kassian out the gate, which I think they will.
Mm-hmm.
I almost, if Nurse comes back healthy, I'm going to go off the board, and I want them to keep going that 11-7 configuration. And then I think you don't really see Kassian or Archibald. You see Chris Russell. And I think Chris Russell, he's such a good penalty killer. I think he's a bit underrated on the penalty kill. I think he does so much. He gets in the shooting lane, he gets in the passing lane. I think he would bring more value to the table than either of those right wingers.
Right. Yeah, no, I kind of completely agree with you, but I think that's only if Nurse is coming in healthy too, right? Which is such a question mark on
Big
that.
if.
Big if, yeah. Yeah, no. I think any way you cut it, it's going to be a great series. Man, I'm just starting to think of if we're going to do predictions, like where, like I'm oh man, I don't even know where I want to draw my line in the sand on that, because I almost don't even want to make a prediction. I don't want to jinx nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say what I feel, because I'm just thinking with my heart and not my brain a lot more. But honestly, to look at the team the last couple of years and just over the season where they've gotten to, I'm way more happy with what we've got coming in. Like, I haven't been this sneaky excited, like a battered woman. I keep coming back, and I don't want to get too excited for that reason. But I'm pretty damn excited. I'm excited for all these goddamn matchups. FO.
This is a big year. Like, I think this is a matchup that Edmonton has to win. I think this is I'd say Edmonton's right up there with Toronto in terms of pressure to perform.
Sure.
You guys won that one series. I think you guys beat San Jose.
2017.
2017. But it's been a lot of disappointment, right? You guys, the Chicago loss, the sweep
Winnipeg
last year. And then there was a year in there when you guys missed the playoffs, and it's just like, okay, it's kind of like at any year I could see like the dam bursting and you go on a crazy run. And I think this is one of those situations where Edmonton has to do something in the playoffs this year.
Definitely, especially with that as much as it pains me to say it, the unit that's happening down south of Edmonton. There, I think that also adds another layer to the pressure. When Calgary's playing good, the expectations are even higher, right? With everything you said. And not only do they have probably the most favorable matchup in the West in LA, it's LA without Doughty. Like, that is, that in terms of what you're expected to win, that is a very, very big piece. And that's a lot of pressure, but I don't know. I feel like there's always pressure on them, and they haven't been playing like it. So hopefully they can keep rocking with that.
Yep.
I can also see, I think for Bouchard as well, just maybe last little thing, I don't see a middle ground. I think he's either exposed a little bit or he has a really big series and he gets a lot of points, because his shot from the point, we're really starting to kind of feed the D-men a little bit more. I think tonight we had another couple goals from Kulak and Barry. And I think Bouchard is one of those guys that if he starts to feel it, and, in the playoffs, there's a lot of wonky goals that go in from the point, and then just how good he is with that little wrist shot. Even he's got the big clapper. I think he could also do a little bit of damage. He's probably one of my biggest question mark going into this series is what he's going to look like in the playoffs. Chaser,
I say let's get into predictions.
Oh boy,
get a little sleepy. Let's predict this shit, and we'll do our cup final.
Why don't I go first, because you guys are the Oiler fan.
The incumbents.
I'll be the neutral bystander. I think this is a competitive series. I think LA's had a really good year. I think Edmonton has to win this series. I think they will win this series. I could see it go 7. I'm going to go Edmonton in 6. I think it's competitive. I think it's close. I think Edmonton gets it done.
Chaser?
I hate to do this because I think we've agreed on a couple in a row here, but I think Edmonton in 6. I think LA wins a couple. I think the Oilers need that. I think if the Oilers went in and had an easy go of it, I would rather them have a bit of a test. I think LA couldn't give it to them. LA can be stingy. Like I said, those top two centermen scare me a little bit. I think LA will maybe win one or two low scoring ones. I think there's going to be a couple 2-1s, 3-2s. I think, and that's LA's environment. I think that's when LA might bring one out at home or something like that. Just tighten it up for a game and manage to do that. So yeah, I think Edmonton in 6.
All right. Well, since you guys went nice and reasoned, I'm just going to go full on doing what my heart says. I think home ice advantage. That barn hasn't seen fans. I think McDavid is going to come out like an absolute manimal and tear through that team. I think it's going to be 2 fistings coming in. I think they'll probably drop one game in LA and then come back into Rogers and finish it out. I think Oilers in 5. And
Oilers
I think
in Fumf.
in Fumf. Oilers in Fumf, indeed. My favorite number. Yeah. FO?
I will say, like, Rogers Place is got a great playoff atmosphere. They're definitely, top 3, I would say, in the league.
Yeah.
Top 3, 4, and they're that range. They're the range of, I think Montreal's got a great crowd. I think the Rangers have a really good crowd. Yeah. I think Nashville when it gets pop and it's a good crowd.
Yeah.
So I think Edmonton's right there with those teams in terms of crowd environment.
Oh, yeah. No, I cannot fucking wait, boys. I'm buzzing. Chase,
we'll be at game 1 on Monday. So
yes, sir. You should enjoy that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's Monday. That's what I've heard.
That's what I've heard too. Monday, so. FO.
Before we do like our conference champs and then our cup champ, why don't we do, because it's been some contention, but definitely between our 2 fan bases, why don't we do our rankings for the awards, the major awards? We can just do maybe Vezina, Norris, Hart.
Sure.
Just do your top three. I feel like the Vezina, we'll start with the Norris. I feel like the Norris is kind of, I think we already kind of talked about it. I'd say Yossi, Makar, Hedman. Would anyone disagree with that in that ranking?
No, that's what I'd have.
No.
Okay, if we go to the Vezina, I would say Shesterkin, Markstrom, and then probably Freddie Anderson. Freddie Anderson's had an amazing year.
Yeah, I'd probably definitely Shesterkin, and then probably Markstrom. I think 9 shutouts is obscene. I don't know who I'd have in that 3 hole. I haven't been blown away, but I didn't watch much of Freddie this year either, though.
Yeah, I'm looking even at all these playoff teams, and like I'm thinking about their goalies, and outside of those ones, I'd probably Anderson, because Colorado, Kemper hasn't really been playing all year for them. He's been good lately, like the last month or two, but he's been top. But I think probably Markstrom, Anderson, Vasilevsky. Yeah.
Okay, and then we got the big one. This is the one that's a little bit contentious between our 2 fan bases. So we've got the Hart Trophy. What do you like? Okay, let's narrow down our finalists of who we think. I think we would agree that Matthews, McDavid, and then Yamamoto might slide in.
in the 4 spot.
Who's the third guy? Who's the third guy that's there? Is it Johnny Gaudreau?
No.
You hear talks about Shesterkin.
I think Shesterkin and Yossi have been the 2 I've heard the most. So maybe one of those 2. I watched enough Rangers games. Like, I don't know, played against the Oilers and games I've seen, they've almost seemed like they kind of win games on high octane offense, like flying around Panarin and them. So Shesterkin obviously has had an incredible year. So maybe one of those 2, if I were to go off the board then with those, I don't know, would Huberdeau in Florida.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
That whole team is team is kind of off the charts too. So like you put McDavid or Matthews on that team, Matthews might score 100, McDavid will put up 200 points. So I don't know. I think Huberdeau maybe, just because I'm not saying Goudreau. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It probably seems like the President's Trophy winner. He got 115 points on the season.
Yeah.
It seems hard to keep that guy out of at least a finalist. And I'm sure you guys are going to say McDavid is the Hart Trophy winner. Like, what do you guys think?
I don't know. I think in terms of like just on this season and what Matthews did, I think I will concede that he would get the trophy, but I'm not conceding that he's even close to the player that McDavid is, right? Like I think McDavid dominates in just such a way that I think he could win the Hart every year, regardless of the kind of points and stuff. It's just a different type. I think that lull in the middle where he was kind of not invisible, but just wasn't playing that same way he dominated, I think that hurts him a little bit. So I think I would give the slightest edge to Matthews just because he did miss some games. And the fact that he put up that many goals in however many games it was just obscene in this era, the scoring like that. And I haven't watched enough of him to say this, but like the way people talk about his 100-foot game and the way he can play kind of defensively, if that is as true as people say, which I always doubt because the Leafs media is such a, ridiculous thing. They would say he's, the best goalie in the league too, but I think I just slightly edge Matthews over him, but every year McDavid should win the Hart. It should be no big deal or no questions asked. I mean, Chaser.
I think this might be my big, bias showing through here, but I honestly do think that lull in the middle of the year where McDavid wasn't necessarily pumping, the team was also shit.
For sure.
I think that lull almost makes more of an argument for McDavid. You look at the one part of the year when McDavid wasn't on his game, the team faltered. Yeah, their goalies were bad. Yeah, they struggled a bit defensively, but their goals per game were way down. And I think Matthews didn't have a great start to his year, so it may be recency bias there where everyone remembers where McDavid had a bit of a lull. Matthews did too. It was just right at the beginning of the year. He didn't start off guns a-blazing, and then he had, 51 and 50 there? So I think that lull improves the argument for McDavid. FO.
I would just kind of reverse that on you. I'm going to pull a quick reversal here and get you in a triangle. No, I would say that the kind of the stretch that Edmonton went on with when their goalies literally could not make a save, the Leafs had that exact same stretch. And the only reason why they have why they have so many points is because literally Matthews just carried them through that whole stretch. Like he scored 51 and 50. Like that's insane. And that hadn't been done since like the 90s. 60 goals. It's incredible. I agree. It's recency bias. It's one of those awards where it's like, who's got the momentum going at the end? You look at when Taylor Hall won, it was because down the stretch, he was scoring every night and he had 40 more points than everyone else on his team. So I think like, it's kind of that thing that comes in waves. And I think Nick, you're right. When they went on that little, lull in the middle there, I think that hurts him because it was like they were kind of like that borderline playoff team, and then down the stretch they obviously went off. I remember talking to you, Chase, when I texted you like they had a bad loss or something. I'm like, are they going to make it? And you said nope. And it was just like, I think that lull just kind of pulls down what McDavid did, not on him per se, but just like how the media kind of portrays that. And I think McDavid also gets hurt by himself because he puts up these numbers every year and there's probably that like boredness factor to it. Yeah. Like it's kind of one of those awards where guys don't really dominate it. It's kind of bounces around maybe more than it should. I agree. McDavid's still the number one guy. I will say that I think Matthews closed that gap significantly this year.
Yeah.
When you look at points per game, Matthews is right there, number 2 with him.
It's just to me, it's the goals per game. To get 60 goals in 73 games is absolutely obscene to me. And I think it's the only thing holding me back is just like getting to watch McDavid every night and seeing what a manimal he is, especially when he came right out of that slump and the way he was dominating. And like, I'm going to say, I don't know if it was that game we lost. I think we got kind of dummied. Was it Nashville? The game you missed, Chase? was it Nashville or was it Dallas? We lost a game
Yeah.
and McDavid dominated so hard in a loss. Like I was not
It
even.
was, I think, was it Columbus? The Columbus game or
No, I don't think it was Columbus.
Minnesota.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it was Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it was like a way that like I've never seen a guy dominate a game like that and not like pull it out. Like just the bounces wouldn't go his way. But to see that, but I just think it's 60 goals in 73 games to me. That is unbelievable type of scoring. Like that's almost a goal a game. Like that is type of scoring we haven't seen, since the 90s, since the 80s even. I think that just slightly edges. That's what I think the McDavid dominance is so much, but there's just the crazy obsceneness of that stat just slightly edges it over. And I'd probably give Matthews it this year, even though by no means am I saying he's anywhere close to McDavid. I think McDavid's still a good stretch out in front of him as the best player in the league.
I wouldn't say. I will say. I'll comment that one thing before Chase goes. I wouldn't say it's a big stretch. I do agree. McDavid overall, if I'm getting that number one pick, I'm taking McDavid, but I don't think it's as big as it was last year. And I think Matthews has kind of proven, like he scored 47 goals last year in 56 games. He's kind of proven that he's kind of this generation's Ovi, where in terms of like he's gonna be on a stretch where he probably hits 50 goals in a season 8-9 times. Like I just think like that's kind of what he's becoming. And I think this year has kind of proven that he can put up the points per game just like McDavid can. But I agree. McDavid, I would give the nod in like the better player at this point. I think McDavid is the best player in the NHL.
Yeah. I would say definitely he closed the gap this year. I would agree with you on that. I just think in my head, the gap is bigger than that, is still pretty large, even though that's probably a bit of the bias, but I think it's just so far out ahead. Like watching him every night, the way he dominates, I think for sure he closed the gap, and they're a clear 1 and 2. I think he kind of knocked McKinnon out of that idea in my mind, because before I was thinking McKinnon and Matthews were that 2-hole kind of back and forth. And I think he really solidified his place at the 2, but I still think McDavid is a good chunk out ahead. Chaser, you've been itching to get in there.
I want to say something that's going to piss off all. I think
give it to me. Give it to me, baby.
I think Draisaitl is closer to Matthews than Matthews is to McDavid.
I agree with that.
I think
what I would say to that? I think Draisaitl is so underrated. Like honestly, I think Draisaitl's right there with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think that's an outrageous take, because I think on any given, like I think Draisaitl's a top 5 player in the league easily. Yeah. If we're like excluding goalies, because goalies are weird, because you can say like, okay, Vasilevsky's in there, you can do that, but if you're excluding goalies and you're talking about just players, I think Draisaitl's right there.
Yeah, me too.
I was expecting more pushback on that, but that's good. Good to hear.
That's good. Yeah, it's nice to hear. It didn't even piss him off. So Hart, I think you're going Connor. I see where you go. I'm like, it's 51-49 for me. Like either way, I can see the argument. I think what upsets me is to see how people just completely wrote McDavid off, like he's not even in the running. Like he's always going to be in the running, but like they're not even giving him a chance. I think that's crazy. I think it's not that cut and dry, but I think to me he just slightly edges it out just because of that crazy goals. I think that's absurd.
I think that's changed a lot in the last couple of weeks. I think McDavid, what is he on? Is he still on that point streak? He didn't get a point tonight. Obviously, he didn't play. Sat out.
Yeah,
but I think he had like a 16 or 17 game point streak there. So I think a month or two ago he was maybe 4 or 5 in the conversation. Now he's 2. He's 2 for sure, and maybe 1. I think if he would get my vote, but I don't think he'll get the votes. I think. I don't know. It's hard. I'm 50-50.
FO?
I think it's incredible. Like what McDavid's got, 122 points.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like he's the favorite, but I think Matthews needed to hit 60. I think if Matthews, say he ended the season, he was hurt there a little bit, and if he didn't play the last 2 games and he had 58, I don't think that it's just something about hitting 60 that guys just don't do. Yeah. That I think that might edge it out, but I think it's close. And I agree with you, Chase. He went on that when the Oilers went on that heater down the stretch. Like McDavid was being talked about as not even being like a finalist. It was going to be like Shesterkin, Yossi, in some combination. Maybe you throw a Huberdeau in there. and he just went on this heater. And I think it's going to be a close. I think it's going to be a fairly close vote. I think
As it
Matthews
should
is going
be.
to edge him out, but I think it's going to be close.
Yeah. I just think like of who is the, like, what is the, in the modern era, what's the most goals scored in a season? Because like, that's only 73 games. Like I'm thinking if he could have stayed healthy for all 82, like could he have got, 68 goals, like 70 goals?
Yeah.
Like that blows my mind. That is
What did Ovechkin get that one year? And Stammer had 64 or
65.
something, didn't he? Yeah.
okay.
Hammer had 60 on the dot, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Well, if Ovi,
And
I was
Ovi
thinking
had-
that somebody hadn't cracked 60 in a long time. I forgot that they did it. Maybe it's a little bit less. Okay, I changed my mind. I'm back to McDavid.
Okay.
Let's
Here's
go.
what I'll say. I think Stammer did it in like 14 or something, 2014. And then Ovechkin did it in like 05 or something. Like he was real young, like new into the league. So it's only been done, 3 times since 2000. So I don't know.
And those guys had full seasons. That does make it crazy. Like still another 9 games. Matthews could do some damage in 9 games. He could have another 10 goals in that, right? Like he could have cracked 70, which would have been absolutely absurd. And that's exciting to me to see if he can maybe do that in the next couple of years. But honestly, I think this was we didn't see even close to what we're going to see out of McDavid either. I think McDavid could get 60 goals in a season very easily. And I think he could have, like 150 point season. And that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Well, I think last year he was on pace. If it wasn't that shortened year, he had 50 some games. He was up over 100 points. So I think he was on pace last year for more than he was this year.
Way more.
If it would have been a full game, but he played Ottawa 9 times or whatever. Fucking
fair. FO?
I feel like McDavid's going to be that player where he's just going to decide one year, or he's just going to have that mindset going into the year where he's like, I haven't won the Hart Trophy. Not the Hart. I haven't won the Rocket. I want to win the Rocket this year. And he's just going to be gunning for that. Remember there was that one year Sid scored 50 and it was just like, I think he tied with someone for the Rocket that year. Didn't he tie with like Corey Perry or something?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Anyways, it was just like, I think it's just one of those things where McDavid's going to be like, I want to win the Rocket. Like I've won every other trophy in this league. I want to win the Rocket one year. So I think at one point he's going to have a year where he, he'll score in the 50s and he'll win it. So, or he'll be right there with whoever's up top.
Yeah. Agreed. Anything else? Beat the playoffs to death here. I think got everyone nice and hyped up. I'll probably even maybe edit this one up and put it out tonight. Probably no one's up at 1 a.m. to watch it. Maybe I'll set it to release in the morning. That might be a little bit more reasonable. No, I don't think there's anything else we missed. Maybe even this was tons of fun to do with the old Three Amigos. Maybe even after the first round finishes up. I think me and Chase are probably going to do an episode in between, every game, even for the Oilers, and then maybe once the first round finishes, might even have to bring FO back to do a little bit of a autopsy of our picks and what we thought, and maybe give a little preview of round 2. That was lots of fun. What did you think about the first time the Oilers Uncensored, FO?
Oh, it's always good to get together with the boys and chat. It's gonna be an emotional next 2 weeks in the first round. It always is. The beauty of the NHL playoffs, man, anything can happen. So
yes, sir.
I think the Oilers are probably in a little bit better spot with their matchup, but anything can happen. We didn't do our conference winners and then our.
Oh well, let's hop into that before we'll finish with that. You want to go first, FO? Who do you got?
Okay, I'm circling 2 series, one on each side that I think is going to happen in the West. I think whoever wins Calgary Edmonton in the second round, I think they're going to go to the Cup final. I honestly do. I think Colorado's just one of those teams that's just born to be snake bitten. They're kind of like the Leafs, and I feel like they're gonna run into something that's not going to work. I don't know if I trust their goaltending. They seem to have bad luck with goalies, so they might get nicked up. And then the East, I'm thinking honestly. Bias here. Whoever wins that Tampa-Toronto series is gonna win the East. I believe, and I guess I picked Toronto, so I have to go with Toronto. And I guess in the West, I think Calgary. I think it's gonna be all Canadian final. Calgary, Toronto.
Wow.
Oof, the mama.
Chaser.
On Oilers Uncensored too. I picked
All
the
right.
Calgary Flames.
I know.
And the
Absurd.
Leafs.
I'll never be invited back.
Happened?
Yeah.
What just happened? Oh my God. All right. Okay. So now
I think this is going to be a more ridiculous. Well, maybe not. I think this is a realistic thing to happen. I think it's a dream scenario. If someone were to say, what do you want to happen? This would be it. Obviously, I'm going with the Oilers out of the West. I kind of agree with Fraser. I think the Oilers are in a really good spot with a matchup against LA. And then you look on where the second round matchup, they're either going to get Dallas or Calgary. Probably not Dallas, but I think Calgary in a Battle of Alberta, they've got a bit more of the star power. I think that D-core is going to be a fucking shitty thing to go up against every night, but I think Edmonton makes it out of the West. They've played Colorado really well, so if it happens to be Colorado there, I'm hoping they don't see Minnesota in the conference final. That would be my nightmare if I'm building up to my dream. That would be my nightmare. Out of the East, I think I'm looking at the Carolina Hurricanes. I think it's going to be an 06 rematch. I think the Carolina Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. I think the Hurricanes, I think they can handle Boston. I think the season series, I've said this, was 16-1. They're going to have no problem with Boston. And then Rangers and Pittsburgh, I think Carolina, they're so sound and they're so good and they buy in so hard to what Rod Brindamore does. Brindamore was there in 06. I think he's going to bring a little bit of that. I think it's going to be Edmonton, Carolina. And if I'm going Edmonton all the way, I might as well go Edmonton all the way. So I think Edmonton's bringing her home. Cup parade's going to be in Von Wackerbarth's backyard. Fraser, even though you picked Calgary and Toronto in the Cup final, you can still fucking come muck it up in the hot tub if you want.
I'll pop by. I'll be there, buddy.
Making appearance. Get his mitts on it. Since you guys both went Edmonton, I'll you know what? I'll be the one reasonable guy. I do believe in Colorado. I think Cale Makar, I believe in him. I think he's
Cale Makar, Yamamoto conference final. Who do you go?
I think Colorado's going to come out. I was leaning the Canes as well. I think it all depends if they could get Freddie back or just get the goaltending. I agree with you, but I just don't have the confidence in it. So I think I'm going to switch up and go, my boys, it's going to be a Cale Makar, Vasilevsky final. And I don't know. I think Colorado's got it. I just got a feeling. I think it's also a little bit of bias because I always loved Colorado as a kid. And I just, I don't have the most sound reasoning behind this, but I just feel like this is Colorado's year to get out of that West. It's a little bit lower of a team. I think there's going to be a lot of guys beating up on teams, and I think they're going to have a little bit of an easier walk through that first round with no UC, and they can kind of roll that into just kind of taking teams that have had a bit more of a battle to get there, roll through them. They're going to come out of the West a little bit fresher. And I think all the arguments are made for Tampa, just the way they can play so many different ways and have a goaltender like Vasilevsky. I think that's a very dangerous team to take. So I'm going to go Colorado Tampa final, and maybe Colorado takes it, mostly just because I think it's so hard to three-peat. I just don't see that happening. They're going to just get close, get the taste, and then it's going to be dashed from. It'll be heartbreaking.
I mean, that's probably the more realistic final of the three of ours, but hey.
Yeah. Hey. If I was picking if it was picking with my heart, it'd be Edmonton, Pittsburgh, a little Crosby McDavid final.
Ooh, that would be a good one.
Yeah. That'd be if I was picking with my heart, but I feel like Chase went with his heart. So did FO. He picked a fucking Toronto Calgary final.
Honestly, here's my thought process. It's like the mojo that they would have leaving that series if you can beat a team like Tampa where everyone is like, oh my god, that's
I agree.
an absolute wagon. If you can beat that team,
100%,
I think they can beat anyone. But it's the Leafs. Who am I kidding here?
Yeah.
And you're playing the defending Cup champs. They're up against it. They're definitely up against it.
I think if Toronto beats Tampa, they go to. Yeah, I think they go to the Cup. Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think that's that unrealistic. I just think in my head that is such a tall task.
Yeah.
And then not only then you have Florida in the second round. Like, congrats. Here's Florida
with Drew.
The difference is Tampa's just so much more of a complete team that I think like if you can overcome that. I mean, you're right. You're going up against the President's Trophy winner if you win, most likely. So you're running into another buzzsaw, but. I think you're just going to be
Meat
feeling real good
grinder.
about yourself. You're going to be the meat grinder. Yeah. But I mean,
Meat
honestly, I
grinder.
think there's 8 teams in the East that are like, you know, we can go on a run and win this thing.
For sure. I wouldn't be surprised anybody coming out the East. Maybe like a Boston or a Washington would give me a little bit of a pause, but yeah, no, there's a lot of teams in the East. The West, I think it's Colorado, Calgary, or Edmonton. Minnesota, I don't know. There's so much parity in the NHL. It could go any goddamn which way, and that's what's so exciting about it. And I can't wait
And
to
we're
be
going
at
to be
game
along for
one.
the ride.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna miss too many. I'm gonna, even if I have to sell my soul, sell my car, sell my body. I'm gonna be at those games. Yeah, guaranteed.
Chase, what'd you shoot today?
You know me, it was an absolute fucking flush show out there, but inside 100 yards is a little rough. So I think I'm opted around to the 76. Yeah, it's not bad. First round of the
No,
year.
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, little rust on you, but
Yeah.
you'll get
Dude,
dialed in there.
I was on like a 2-week heater, man. Like I had 3 consecutive rounds where I was like in the 80s, and like that's pretty nice for me. Like I've probably shot in the 80s like 5-6 times. And so I had 3 in a row, and I'm like, I think I'm starting to figure this thing out. And then I went out back-to-back times, and I put up like a 99 and a 101. And it was just like, okay, well, I got to go back to the drawing board here again.
Was that at the Bay Augusta you're at?
Yeah, Augusta West. Yeah,
Yeah,
Augusta West. It's the sister course of Augusta.
I think you just got to widen your stance, FO. Really?
Yeah, widen her up.
honestly, I narrowed it up after you were chirping me there, and that's when I was going on the heater, and I was like, oh my god,
dude.
Chase saved my golf game. And then I gotta dial it back in.
Get from a 5-foot stance up to a 4-foot stance. Oh my goodness. Well, we'll have to get a couple games in this year.
Yes, sir.
I gotta tell you about this goddamn baseball game I went to.
Oh yeah, tell us all about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go to the game. We go to the Battle of the Bay. It's like big rivalry. You know, the city's kind of a buzz for it. Going into SF, traffic was crazy. The game ends up 1-1. I mean, sorry, 1-0. It was a 1-0 game.
Oh my goodness.
God.
So boring. And like, I love baseball, but man, it was tough to sit through it. And it was windy. It was kind of chilly out. And so the first batter of the game for the A's hit a jack, like a leadoff jack. Okay, guess what? We showed up, dude. We showed up like halfway through the top of the first, and I see it's 1-0 A's. I see 1-0 A's, so I check it. I'm like, leadoff jack. I'm like, oh fuck, we missed it, but it's like whatever. It's still like the whole game's ahead of us. Nothing. Crickets.
Oh, no.
I didn't even see a run. I didn't even see a run scored.
Jesus. Did anybody threaten? Like, was it just a pitcher's duel throughout?
The Giants had 3 hits.
Oh
man. Like the
at
A's had a couple
at least it could have been a no-hitter.
But that would have been cooler. At least you said you saw a no-hitter.
Yeah.
At least the story.
Brutal. Yeah. Oh.
It's a tough look, FO. I'm glad you saved that for the end of the pod. It really hit the crescendo at the end.
Someone stuck it out 3 hours.
Yeah.
They get that story.
The old 1-0 Battle of the Bay, Oakland versus San Fran.
Oh man.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll definitely do this again. That was tons of fun. I think we almost crushed fucking 3 hours of that baloney. I think people are gonna have a bit of a listen ahead of them to get through it before Monday's game. But content like this, they're just lucky to get it with these 3 absolute NHL insiders. You don't get this kind of insight on TNT.
Look out, Elliot Friedman. We're coming for you.
Non-biased hockey analysis.
Oh my god.
No, boys, it was fun. I don't even like the Oilers, but I've been listening to your shit, and it's been entertaining. I know there's some good stories you guys dropped, so keep it up.
Good.
And
I appreciate
if you guys
it.
want to have me back ever again, I'm always down.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we're gonna have to put a rule on you can't pick Calgary for anything if you do come back on. We'll give you a pass on the first one because we didn't tell you that. All right. Okay, I'll hit the end of the recording, and then I'm sure we'll bullshit for a couple more hours before bed here. All right. See you, boys.
Okay.
Okay. Love you, boys.